Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the live stream. This is our first official Drew Morg back in action, full swing, real deal live stream today. We've got Bart Kay as a guest. He'll be coming on with us in about 30 minutes, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Bart's been in here for the last couple live streams that I've done, the more low-key ones, and he wanted to participate. And I don't know what he wants to talk about today, to be honest with you. So we'll have to see. And he's a wealth of information. If you guys don't know Bart Kay, he's got a channel, Bart Kay Nutrition Science, Nutrition Watchdog. And he runs his own group called the Meat Militia. And he does a lot of good stuff. He's been on my channel and I've been on his a couple of times. And he's definitely been going down the carnivore route lately, which before he was like semi-carnivore. He's always repped the keto carnivore mindset. But nowadays, I think he's really gone all in, and the results are speaking for themselves. You guys haven't seen the way Bart looks in a while. He's definitely lost a bunch of fat, and he looks great. If you guys remember, we had him and Harley do a debate, a roundtable discussion, which was probably one of my best videos here on the channel. And they went at it for a solid 2 hours. A lot of fun. And that one's archived on the channel, obviously. And so you guys might want to check that one out after this because it's hilarious. And of course, during Ryder, anytime he's on the channel, it's a freaking mess. And with Bart, it's fireworks, man. So you guys got to check that one out. I see a couple people in the chat. Big shout outs to everybody who's already in here. Honest, Luke, Jonas, T. Trevor, Diamond, Brian. How's it going, everybody? Hope you're doing well. And we should get started here pretty soon with all the action. Excuse me while I fumble through all these keys. It's been a while, guys. I haven't used the full controls in a while. This was a definite skill back in the day. You get rusty not messing around with it. So hopefully there will be no technical difficulties today. We've got 2 webcams set up. We've got multiple scenes going on. We got the chat going. So you never know what's going to happen today. But after this, we're going to be dialed. We're going to be dialed. Absolutely dialed. Jonas remembers when we had the discussion with Bart. What do you mean? Somebody said Bart's cringe? Oh, no. Come on, White Pill. Why do you think Bart's cringe? What do you have to say about old Bart? What don't you like? Let's hear it. I'm adjusting Bart's webcam. There we go. A little more centered. It's always good to see Durian Rider embarrassing himself. Does he, though? I feel like people just hate Durian Rider, but he doesn't actually embarrass himself when he comes on here. He's usually on his best behavior. Minus, eating chips on live stream just to be annoying. Just to trigger Bart. Luke Gear says Bart's content has been extremely insightful, as well as the amazing community he built around his channel. Bart's done great. His channel's exploded. When me and him were first starting out doing all this stuff, we were about the same amount of viewers and stuff like that. I stopped at 5,000 subscribers. Bart kept going, and now he's at 15. Look at him go. I remember at the time he had just quit his job with the juice factory, which I'll have to ask him how things are going this past year. I think it's been a really good time to be involved in YouTube, live commentary, streaming, podcasting, all this stuff, because with the whole COVID lockdown and stuff like that, I think people have more time to actually watch this type of content. And it's been really good for viewership. Not that any of that matters to you guys, but I also feel like there's been an even bigger void as well. So I've felt the void as well. And I felt like more people had hit me up during this time of lockdown, and they asked me to come back and do more videos. It's almost as if it was back to a couple months after I stopped making videos about a year ago. People had been hitting me up in the past couple of months saying, hey, come on, man. So I owe it to the community. Obviously, there's a lot of new stuff that happens in a year. New stuff with me as far as diet, physicality, what I'm up to. So we'll talk about that stuff as time goes on. And we'll get some more interesting guests that have popped up. There's a lot more ex-vegans. There's a lot more vegans. I was talking to a vegan today on Instagram. He wants to do an interview with me. He's a vegan bodybuilder. I'll give you guys his Instagram if you guys want to go check him out. Actually, I think he's got a channel here. on YouTube. His name's Plant-Based Fits. You guys should go check him out. He's a very small channel on YouTube, but he's a really strong guy. And I just wanted to open up the floor for a conversation, a dialogue with him. He's still a current vegan, very proud, 6 years, going strong. And we'll see what he's up to. And then there's another guy, super interesting guy. You guys might want to also check out. He also agreed to do a future interview. He doesn't know who I am, of course. A lot of these people don't. But his name is, let's see here. This guy, so the reason I wanted to watch this guy, by the way, or have this guy on the channel, by the way, his name is Joshua Rayner Goldstein. You guys can find him on Instagram at Josh Rayner Gold. Super interesting dude, lives in LA, jacked, has been eating nothing but raw meat for the past couple of weeks, including chicken. I watched him eat an entire chicken on his Instagram. The video's on there. So you guys can go check that out. He's interested in doing a interview. So we're just going to get a huge variety of people. We're going to get the vegan bodybuilders. We're going to get the raw chicken eating carnivore bodybuilder dude. And we're going to see what's what. We'll bring on some old friends, hopefully. A lot of the people that I know or knew that used to do YouTube stuff, they don't do it anymore. They refuse to basically do it. We'll see if we can get Evan Rock on here again. Jenny says, I love your live streams. You're a natural at this. Live stream with Harley was hilarious. Hey, thank you very much, Jenny. It might be a natural, but coming back to a full episode, we're a little nervous here today. What do you think? How's it going to go? I did 2 live streams the past couple weekends, 1 on each Saturday, and it was just very casual, very easy to do. Had a couple drinks while we were at it on live stream. But today's going to be more serious, more formal. We're down to business. We got the intros. We got the outros. We've done the work, guys. It ain't easy. There's a lot of little stuff to do outside of YouTube to get the content ready for this, not just getting the guests together and putting all the little trinkets all around the screen, the names, making the thumbnails. I hate making thumbnails, guys. That's a little secret for you. I hate making thumbnails. If I could just have somebody make thumbnails for me, I'd make twice as much content. Oh yeah, way too early for drinking. T. Trevor, good point. Too early for drinking. We still got to get a workout in later after the stream. Maybe go hit some golf balls at the driving range. Lucy says, welcome back. Welcome back to you, Lucy. Thank you for enjoying the content. Stick around. Today's going to be a fun one. Nick says, another vegan who was built on meat but then claims he is doing great and it's because he is vegan, such BS. Well, if you're talking about the guy that I was just promoting, Plant-Based Fits, he's been vegan for 6 years and he's been making gains. Now, of course, we're going to bring all this up to him. Obviously, I suspect that he's on protein powders and obviously using many of the common supplements, which I refuse to do personally, whether I'm on vegan or carnivore or omnivore, whatever the diet. I just don't think that supplements are something that we should be consuming as humans on a regular basis. That doesn't make any sense to me. If you're like somebody who's really busy and you're gonna miss a meal or something, and you truly use a supplement as a get out of jail free card a couple times a week, that's different. I don't have a problem with people doing that and people implementing that as a backup. But when you have it built into your day, like I'm gonna eat 2 protein shakes a day at this time and this time, I think that's very foolish programming. I feel like that's cheating the system. You're going to pay, your body's going to pay some way, either now or in the future. And honestly, we see these bodybuilders dying of all kinds of weird stuff, right? Even the guys who aren't on steroids necessarily, the guys who are dying of genetic heart defects in their 30s and 40s, that's so rare outside of bodybuilding, yet you see it all the time in bodybuilding. I don't understand why people aren't putting these two together. I've always noticed that in the bodybuilding world, people died earlier. And then you see them go to the hospital, they get some crazy surgery, and then they can't work out for a year, and they lose everything they have as far as their physique goes. So I feel like there's a connection there, and we need to explore that further. Now, maybe diets like carnivore or a very well-balanced omnivore diet or a very well-balanced vegan diet could get you there, but I've already experimented with the vegan side. I know that doesn't work. I've been experimenting with the omnivore side. I know that does work, especially without protein supplements, which is a huge something that they rely on, something that vegans rely on, and omnivores too, to be honest with you. But again, you shouldn't be relying on it on a day-to-day basis. Luke says, Bart was always open about his lack of discipline and the consequences thereof. I don't know why I hold it against him. I don't hold it against him at all. I don't hold anything against him. I don't know if somebody in here is holding it against him. Oh, okay, so you're talking about White Pill. Sorry, chat. Let me catch up here. White Pill says, during Ryder beat him up pretty bad. Bart has to sneak in carbs, but claims full meat. No, he doesn't. He never claimed full meat. Bart actually, back in those days, claimed very openly that he was having a lot of beer. So he's cut that out recently. I know he said that recently on one of my in the chat of one of my live streams. So that'll be something we talked to him about today. We'll basically get an update from him. We'll see what's really going on, what's working for him. Why the big physique change? Why the big diet change? What do you guys think is some of the new findings this last year of the whole diet world? I feel like we're starting to see some of the carnivore crowd loosen up a little bit and accept some of the other things into their diets. These carnivores are getting a little bit more omnivorous with their diets. They're consuming more carbs. They're saying, oh, that's not so bad anymore. Some of these people who went carnivore in order to heal their gut issues are now consuming more plants. And they're talking about how they can add more of a variety into their diet, which I think is huge. I think that's what most people should strive for, as a matter of fact. And Bart will disagree with me on that. But again, we'll talk more about that today, and we'll get more into that. What do you guys think? Phoenix, welcome to the chat. Not Sean Baker. No, Sean Baker is eating more meat than ever. However, over the last year, you remember he did that experiment where he lost like a bunch of muscle mass, a bunch of weight? What was that about? I just saw pictures of him popping up on my Instagram feed, and I really wasn't trying to involve myself in any of the diet stuff during that time. And I saw that he was just losing massive amounts of weight and a lot of muscle mass, and people were calling him out for that. Do you guys have any idea what that was about? He said it was something to do with an experiment that he was doing. He was duplicating some experiment from the 60s or something like that. But I don't know the details around it. I don't know why he would attempt that. I don't know if it was for some, like, to experiment with it, or he was hoping for some result. I feel like that's why a lot of people change up their diet. They're actually hoping for some kind of result that they're not getting with whatever they're currently doing. That's like why vegans always are doing juice fasting and stuff like that, in my opinion. He switched to high protein and changed to CrossFit. Is that real? No way, dude. There's no way he would have switched to CrossFit because he works out at home. So how's that even possible? He was already doing high protein. That doesn't make any sense. High protein, low fat. So what? He cut out fat, like he was eating more lean cuts of meat because he already eats only meat. I don't understand that. What's the point of that? He's already eating like ribeyes. Pretty much. It's real. Okay. I don't see the point of that. So he's doing high protein, low fat, and he ended up losing a bunch of weight. That's interesting. He leaned out quite a bit, and like he said he got weaker too. Kaleidoscope Studio says, I made a how to get shredded guide. Okay, what does that entail, Kaleidoscope? I'm very interested now. How would you get shredded? Anna says that she's meat-based, omnivore, strict carny, messed up my hormones. Just your anecdotal evidence. Thank you for sharing that. What exactly happened with your hormones, if you don't mind sharing? I feel like people get too into the weeds on... not you, I'm saying in general, people get too into the weeds on trying to correct like one little hormone that's not good in their blood. And then they go off in the deep end and they do like some crazy experiment, or they try and supplement for that one thing. I think that's the wrong approach. I think it's the wrong approach. It's kind of like trying to build up your upper pec muscle only instead of just working out the bench press and you hit all of them at the same time. And then you're going to heal. You're going to get the nutrition and healing for everything, you know? If you just work out the bench press, you're going to work your entire chest as an example, right? How you doing, Anina? Good to see you. Gypsy, hi. Sean made a how to get shredded guide. Okay, so Sean made a how to get shredded guide. I like Sean Baker, by the way. I'm not saying anything bad about him, but I don't know if he was effective. You know, I would have expected, as somebody like him who can eat a huge amount of meat and all they were eating was high protein, low fat, that they would have maintained a lot more muscle on their cut. Because yes, although he did lose some fat, which he didn't have much fat to begin with, but he did lose some fat, but he lost a lot of muscle too. So I don't know if that was an effective weight cut, to be honest with you, because he's a very, very strong guy and he has a lot of muscle on his frame. So if he were to do it more correctly and just target the fat rather than losing muscle along with the fat, I feel like he should have came out of that shredded cut or whatever with a lot more muscle mass to display. Like he should have looked even bigger. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know if that was an effective cut. Okay, so you're saying the CrossFit is what did it. I don't know, man. Go look at those CrossFit athletes. They're pretty huge, if you ask me. They're pretty massive. Haralt says he did low fat for 5 days, replacing red meat with white fish, followed by fat refeed. Interesting. Yeah, I don't know if that would be an effective way to go. Phoenix says, I don't see whey as a supplement really because it's a byproduct. Plus it does have some minerals in it. Okay, so I used to have that same approach. I used to think, all right, well, it's a food. Whey protein is a food. It's not a supplement. But if there's no possible way for you to get that naturally in nature, in its form, powdered whey powder, like powdered whey, there's no way you can get that in nature. So how it has to be considered a supplement. In any case, it does spike your insulin quite massively and your blood sugar, as far as I know. And we'll talk to Bart about that as well, because I know he's gone in depth about
if I pretend I'm walking. Oh, that worked. That did it. So I can just sit here. Although that is like movement. I'm going to get tired like real quick.
Our favorite Unnatural Vegan. Thank you, S. Marcus. Good to see you in the chat there, buddy, for the €5. Big appreciation. All super chats, always appreciated, guys. We'll never expect them. The content is free. We're going to pump it out regardless of the money. I'm going to be here for you guys. We're here to get information out. We're here to discuss and provide high quality ideas as much as possible. Brian says that Sean Baker wasn't doing any lifting, though. He was doing different exercises. Okay. All right. Well, like I said, I feel like CrossFit's a pretty high intensity exercise format. I feel like you get a lot of muscle stimulation there. There's really no reason why you should lose muscle mass doing CrossFit. There's people who gain muscle mass doing CrossFit, so I don't understand how that's possible. Sean stopped drinking alcohol and lost the weight. I don't know. A lot of speculation. People are talking about push-ups versus bench press. I think if you really were to compare, I think that overall bench press is going to be better than push-ups. Although I only do push-ups now, by the way, personally. And flies with the rings and dips as well. So I don't just do push-ups, but it's all body weight stuff nonetheless. Raw liquid
We haven't
whey.
told him anything yet, Jeff. Don't vape. Don't vape. We don't like vaping.
We don't like vaping, guys. Shout out to President Trump. Trump 2020. From what I hear, he's still controlling the world from the White House. Joe Biden is not the real president. Allegedly. I'm not saying that. That's what the internet's saying, okay? I don't know if I agree with that. I'm not that deep into the weeds on the conspiracies. I'm much more normal. Thank you, Luke Gear, for the $4.99. What is that, Russian? $4.99 rubles? I don't know what the R stands for. I'll have to look that up. Appreciate that, man. Thank you. Any of your guys' hard-earned money is always appreciated. Nick says you can't get cream naturally or most dairy, so you class that as a supplement. That's a technicality there. I think you can definitely get dairy naturally. I mean, it is produced by the cow. You could squirt that right into your cup and drink it right there. You know, I think that's a lot different than isolating amino acids from meat and then grinding them up into a powder so that they're super, super condensed. Like, you could never get that naturally. But I see what you're saying. I mean, but still, I mean, a cow's going to have milk. It is what it is. It's not that, there's nothing unnatural about a cow making milk. It's not even processed, really. I mean, literally, you're just squirting it straight into the cup. Anina, have a good night. Appreciate it. Oh, the Brazilian. Okay. The Reals. Is that how you say it? The Reis. Obrigado. Drew, you following the GameStop stuff? Yeah, I'm following it. We won't get into that today, although it is crooked as hell. Marcus, I know you know what I'm talking about. Robinhood, totally crooked. And Luke says milk is a whole food. I agree. I agree with that. Milk is a whole food. You're getting that straight out of the cow. There's nothing more, like, that's actually less processed than killing an animal, cutting up the meat, cooking it, and eating it. You could get milk theoretically more unprocessed than meat. And I find meat pretty much the most whole food that you can get. Fruit, meat, milk. I mean, we're not talking about bread here. And yeah, Robinhood. These people are definitely got some, I think we're seeing the cracks in all these institutions and the way that the government operates with these institutions. Completely unfair. I hear that institutional funds are still able to actually trade those stocks right now because they're basically trading over the counter instead of through the brokers, but all the brokers that are typically used by retail traders are blocked. I'll have to double check on that one. So that's what I hear. We do have Bart in the waiting room at this point, guys. We're going to pull him on in a couple minutes. I feel bad having him sit there. But that's a new feature, I guess, of Zoom. I used to do it, guys, the way I used to do it with Zoom before everybody figured out all this webcam video stuff. I used to just send the link out to the guest, like in the moment. I'm sure they're sitting there sweating it, like, is this guy going to actually get me on the stream? And then they just click it and they just show up on my screen. Like, it was so raw and uncut. I can't believe it used to work out. Now it's just so much better. See, okay, Marcus says the hedge funds can trade. See, that's crazy to me. I'm going to try not to blow my voice out today. The past few streams, by the end of it, my voice is like completely hoarse. There's no way I would be able to do 2 days back-to-back streams. I don't know how I used to do it, as a matter of fact. So we have Bart in the waiting room, guys. I think we're just going to go ahead and pull him in. And we will get started here. Let me make sure that he can hear me in here and all the rest. Give me 1 second. Beautiful.
Hi, campers.
Hello, Bart. Give me 1 second. We're going to pull you straight on. Make sure that this is working. Okay.
If I pretend I'm walking.
Oh.
Oh, that worked. That did it. So I can just sit here. Although that is like movement. I'm going to get tired like real quick.
Okay, guys, this is the man that needs no introduction around here in the YouTube carnivore community, keto community. Lord, Field Marshal, Militant Director of South Africa, Bart Kay. Bart has recently been losing weight, embarking on the carnivore diet. I must say, Bart, you're looking very sparkly and fresh right now. Your skin is looking fabulous. And Bart has been in the channel the last couple live streams. He's wanted to go. He's wanted a piece on the experience here. And of course, we're going to oblige. So, Bart, welcome to the channel. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you very much. It's been altogether too long, Drew, since we've done a collaboration. It's been altogether too long that you've been away from the community of live streaming and stuff, doing other things. It's great to have you back, and I'm very, very pleased to be here.
Thank you, Bart. Yes, it's been an interesting year. I think everybody can vibe with that. But I lost interest. I'm going to be honest. I lost interest for a while to keep doing this. And part of the reason for that is, I've said this a few times in the streams, and maybe you caught this, but I see myself not so much as an interviewer or as a host or somebody who's here to make content constantly. I actually like to experiment. You know, I see other people who are more credentialed than me, who have more field experience, maybe scientific experience in a lab setting like yourself, as more information bringers. And I see myself, I take what you guys say, and I like to implement it into the field, and I like to report it, you know? But you know, here we are, and we're back doing some interviews, and I'm enjoying it. So let's keep the ball rolling, shall we?
Awesome. Long may the enjoyment continue. Yeah, I mean, I can absolutely relate to all of that, Drew. And, you know, I myself have gone through periods where I have completely lost interest, lost the gumption, lost the drive to try and make a living this way. YouTube and the other big tech platforms have made it nigh on impossible, if not actually impossible, for creators to earn a decent living and to earn what they actually, you know, should be earning. That YouTube is running interference. There's no two ways about it, and they've been doing it for nearly 2 years on my channel. It does. It destroys one's gumption to want to continue to put yourself out there and make content and organize people to talk to and make videos and do the editing and spend the money on the kit that's required so that you look and sound half decent. I mean, all this shiz that you see going on here and the audio quality such that it is that you get doesn't come for free.
No.
So yeah, it's a tough road. And as such, I've been diversifying, Drew, is what I've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
I now actually earn the vast majority of my income as a PR, a self-employed PR representative for the world's most powerful nutraceutical supplement product. And the YouTube is now a very, very poor third or fourth place in the income streams, behind, you know, a few consultancies here and there and a few other bits and bobs as well. So that's what I'm up to. Yes, you have correctly hit it on the head. On the 1st of January, I went from, I was 95% carnivore for a few years, leading up to the 1st of January this year. I had drifted off to more like 85, perhaps. There was a lot of beer being drunk. I was eating a lot of potato chips. There were some issues going on in all sorts of different areas, both nutritionally and psychologically and whatever else. And it was time for a change there. So I went 100% carnivore on the 1st of January. So 29 days ago by my date here. And so no potato chips, no beer, no alcohol, no plant material of any kind, just meat, animal fat, and a little bit of cream here and there. No coffee, no tea, none of it.
You used to have the big mug, I remember.
Yeah, it was like a bucket thing.
Yeah.
Now I've got a more reasonable sized cup, and this actually contains hot water.
All right.
What's in there? Hot water.
Interesting. Okay, so why the switch to 100% carnivore with zero plants? Like, what is your take on it? Because like I said earlier, I feel, and this was more in the intro before you got here, but I was saying like carnivore people over the past year or two have been slowly drifting away from 100% militant meat only, and they're actually starting to implement a little bit more plant foods, and they're not so hard holding that line anymore about 100% carnivore. Like even Paul Saladino, we're seeing, you know, eat some of these things. So
yeah. So guys like Paul, as you rightly suggest, are drifting off to more liberal approaches. Paul is even suggesting that up to 100 grams a day of sugar is fine. I have publicly said on a number of occasions that I think Paul is wrong in that. I think that's an error, especially in the form that he's talking about, which is largely honey with rice and fruit thrown in there as well. The glycating effect, for example, on honey, if you were to eat 100 grams of honey a day, that would be disastrous over a quite short period, frankly. Not to mention the deuterium state of all of that carbohydrate laden, sugar laden stuff. Rice, obviously, contraindicated. It's a seed. Humans aren't supposed to be eating seeds.
Right.
And if you refine it, then the argument there is that it's even worse in terms of its glycemic loading, its glycemic index effect, perhaps.
Could we make the same argument for meat then?
Could we make the same argument?
Meat. You have to cook meat. There's sort of a processing of meat as well. I think it's a kind of a fair point.
Yeah, sure, but I mean, the processing of meat is cooking it, and it's not compulsory. You don't need to do it to be able to eat the meat. True. People can eat meat raw if they choose to. I don't personally choose to eat my meat raw at all, but some people do, and that's fine. That's their call. They think that it gives them some kind of an edge or some kind of a bone. Hey, look, there are even some people that like to eat their meat rotten because they reckon they get extra benefits.
The high meat.
And they even think that some of them are even thinking they're getting psychoactive stuff from that, and they may well be. Whatever. Anyway, none of that is for me. I'm all about just meat and animal fat. Very minimal dairy for me. And the dairy that I do have is all non-lactose dairy because I'm lactose intolerant. So we're talking cream, butter, and cheese is the dairy that I would be taking in. No milk at all.
Okay.
And I'm taking in a lot less cream than I was because the cream intake was associated with the coffee, which I'm now not doing.
Okay.
So I'm also not big on organs.
Okay.
I don't think you need to include organ meats to prevent any kind of deficiency. Everything you need in a human diet is in muscle meat. I always, again, the example again has to be Paul Saladino with his nose to tail sort of stuff. I've often sort of asked, I've never really got an answer, how tasty was the last nose you ate, Paul? How tasty was the last tail that you ate? Perhaps I shouldn't ask that question because that one can be misconstrued. But so look, for me, the reason
you might catch COVID if you eat too much tail, Bart.
But exactly, you could. And apparently the Chinese are now deciding that the best way to test for that is via the anal route. But there you go.
Correct. That's scientific.
Yeah, the reason I switched from, as I was at the time, I'd slid back to 85%, was because my health was not quite where I wanted it to be. And there was no secret about that. But at that time, I also received contact from Ray Nazen, who is an incredible character with an incredible story. He's a MeatRx coach. And he was, for want of a better term, he was a fat boy. Mm-hmm. And now the man is, washboard abs, and he's in incredible shape. He's a bloke my age. So I related to him on that level. He was trying to sort of, he wanted to do something to promote himself a bit as well. And he wanted to kind of get a bit better known. And he genuinely wants to help people. And so he contacted me and said, look, why don't I coach you to go 100% carnivore? And I was like, oh, really? Okay, then fine, we'll do it. But I'll tell you what, Ray, let's do this open hand. Let's do it publicly. Let's do it on my channel. And you coach me as if nobody's watching, but they all will be. Mm-hmm. And that went straight up his flagpole. And he went, yeah, let's do that. Awesome. So we've been doing that for the month of January. We've had a couple of online discussions, much like you and I are having now. Only it was him coaching me on the cravings and the not caving in and the issues that come up and all that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And we've had a couple, obviously, of discussions offline as well, and it's been really, really good. out of it, the things I have noticed are I've dropped nominally about 20 pounds in the month.
That's huge. I mean, that's massive. What the hell?
Yeah, it's incredible. Just by getting rid of potato chips and alcohol and stuff, really. My hypertension has normalized completely. I'm now like 120 on 60, 120 on 80 standing up. And I've been 140 over 100 my entire adult life, even when I was nearly carnivore. So that's one thing I've noticed, that my blood pressure is completely normalized. So that's fantastic. That's a great win, even if I hadn't lost 20 pounds. My sleep has normalized. I had terrible insomnia prior to that, and a lot of stress and distress really involved with trying to run a YouTube channel and all of that kind of stuff. You could say on the flip side, okay, the other business I've now got involved in marketing, the supplement product, that's taken off. That's financially doing really well. Maybe that had something to do with the sleep and stress and blood pressure. Who knows? But I don't think so. I'm always going to look for the more mechanistic cause and effect, health related thing. So I'm going to ascribe it to that without any evidence. It's just anecdotes.
Are you still doing the ankle grounding, by the way?
Yep. Yeah, we've got a grounding sheet these days, which has got silver threads through it, and it connects directly with a clip-on connector, and you plug it into the wall. Although I'm told it's better if you put it to a stake outside rather than to the wall socket, which I'll get to at some point. Okay. So yep, still grounding.
Okay. Have you noticed anything different if you don't do it? Do you, like if you sleep at, in a hotel somewhere, or, you're not at home for the night?
Generally, anytime, well, I mean, we're so much devotees now that generally anytime we go anywhere, it comes with us.
Oh, okay.
Basically, we just don't sleep without it. It's kind of become the thing. Oh, and the other thing that we've been doing quite a bit of, obviously it's the middle of summer here, so I've been getting a lot of direct sun. We're doing a lot of sun worship, sunbathing, lying around on the beach, that kind of stuff. So it's pretty idyllic in all of those senses. But yeah, I mean, I'll take all those things as wins. I've also got control of what was basically out of control alcohol consumption. So that's also a win.
Okay.
And probably not being addicted to coffee anymore is probably pretty good as well. In terms of, I mean, that's probably the one that might have had the biggest effect over the blood pressure, perhaps. Don't know.
I think the insomnia as well. Were you drinking afternoon coffees?
Yeah, I was drinking all day. Like I'd get up and have my first bucket of coffee, and then I'd have another one straight after that, and then an hour after that is another one, and then I was literally, Drew, I was drinking probably 7 or 8 of those big white bucket cups of, and this was instant coffee as well.
So I believe last time I researched this, the half-life of coffee is 6 hours or 8 hours.
Yeah.
So even if you're having a coffee at noon, I factored this out one time. Even if I have a monster at noon, there's still a quarter of the amount of caffeine floating around my bloodstream around 9 or 10 p.m. when I'm trying to go to bed.
Yep.
So it would be the equivalent of drinking a quarter of a monster and then trying to go to sleep. That's the amount of caffeine still in your blood.
Yep. And right? I was drinking a big bucket of coffee before I was going to bed. In fact, I'd take it to bed with me. Right. Sleep time now. I can't sleep.
Okay. Well, so I'm gonna throw a Drew's theory on this one. The insomnia was probably the caffeine. I'm just gonna go out on a limb on that one.
It could well be. I mean, and certainly I think it absolutely has to have had an impact. But also, sleep is very much a psychological thing as well. And the place I was in even a month ago, not anything like as good as the place I'm in right now. So,
how much are you actually sleeping now? Not just the quality, but like what's the quantity?
Generally, I'm in bed around 10 in the evening, and I will wake naturally probably 6:30 to 7, and then I'm usually lying around until about 8 o'clock till I can be asked getting up.
Gotcha. So you're getting a solid like 9 hours.
Yeah. And then on a good night, if I'm in bed earlier than 10, and if I'm not getting up for a 9 o'clock appointment or whatever, I might lie in a bit more. I might get 10 or even 11 hours in sometimes.
It seems like you're really paying back some super deep sleep debt that you acquired over probably years, where you're just you're building it back.
That's the other one, Drew. I forgot completely. I'm told that my snoring has ceased as well, which has been very welcome.
That could be an inflammation thing, like the nasal passages, whatever, a little fatter than normal, and those are just all sealed up now because you're not eating inflammatory things. It makes sense. I mean, literally, like I don't know how else to say this, but you look less inflamed to me, like your head and your face and your the whole thing. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I'm told that the face, neck, everything that you would normally see is a completely different shape. I don't see it myself because obviously it's been a gradual change over the month. Pim says the same. She says, "Oh God, don't ask me." But those that kind of watch the channel that see me every day or every other day or once or twice a week, whatever, will go, "Oh yes, shit, you've completely changed the shape of your face.
So
your skin is looking better." And
I would say so. I mean, it was one of the first things that I noticed you popped on here, but I saw that over the past couple of weeks. I've been popping in and seeing your stuff, and I was like, gee, like what has Bart has done something. And then you mentioned that you have been embarking on the carnivore thing. I didn't realize it was only 28 days or whatever, because that's a huge transformation from just that short amount of time.
Yeah. So I'm going to keep doing it and see what happens.
So what has changed as far as what you've been eating? Because like you said, you were doing like let's go before the 85% times.
Yeah.
You were doing probably like 95% carnivore, like some little things here and there, plus the coffee. What changed? Like, do you think you could go back to that version of your eating? Not the excess alcohol drinking and all that stuff, but like the, throwing in a little bits here and there. Do you think that's something that you could handle and without this explosive inflammatory effect?
I'm pretty convinced not. Now that I'm through most, I think, of the other side, I've got rid of most of the inflammation, and the inflammation that we all carry around with us on a day-to-day basis at whatever level we individually do that. We don't even really realize it. We don't think about it. We just carry that inflammation around with us, and that's just normal life. That's how we are. We don't think of that as being a pathological situation. We don't think of it as being a problem. And the fact that I might snore, the fact that I might have some insomnia, the fact that I might have had a little bit of puffiness and water retention around my body and a bit of bloat around my belly, and I had the dad bod thing going on and all that stuff. It was just like, well, I'm nearly 50 years of age. That's what it is. That's normal. Suck it up. What's your problem? You're not going to look like Drew Morg at your age, son, sort of thing. Or you're not going to, and then you meet a bloke like Ray, who is my age and who, does have washboard abs. And I'm going, oh, you bastard. Now it means it is possible. And I've got to, anyway.
Well, trust me, it's very possible for people my age or even younger. I'm 35. I'm not, 18 or 21 anymore. And you could easily deteriorate very quickly if you don't, A, exercise the right way, and B, eat the right foods. And I kind of tested that last year by just eating, 3 square home cooked meals, the stuff that was being eaten around here. And it was like spaghetti for dinner or like pizza, pizza night here and there, candy bars after dinner or whatever. Nothing out of control, but like, and very minimal drinking. So really that wasn't an issue. That wasn't something that I was adding in, but it was like, my body just turned from being relatively lean and sort of shredded down to just like skinny fat. Nobody would think anything of me like working out or anything like that. I just look like a completely average skinny guy.
Yeah.
And so, that's what I'm saying. You could definitely lose it very quickly.
I'm absolutely convinced that the 5% is absolutely lethal in terms of inflammation, in terms of its effect on my body. Other people might be able to get away with 7, 8, 9, 10%. Other people can get away with much more than that. it seems like my body, it seems like my constitution says to me, even that little bit sunshine, no good for you. So I think pretty much that has me with my N=1 experimentation deciding that 100% carnivore is the go, and to keep doing that and see if the improvement continues, stabilizes. I don't know. But no, I don't think I could go back to doing what I was doing. And well, I could, but then my body would go back to doing the same as what it was doing, I would say. And that's not so good.
Well, I've seen you working out. So can you tell us about like the performance gains or losses thereof after switching over? What's going on there?
Yeah, well, I mean, my training has for the last month focused largely on upper body. I haven't done a lot of the lower body stuff that I really need to be doing as I'm getting ready for this event that I'm going to be doing by the end of this year. I'll be adding more and more leg work in. I've got basically no muscular development left on my lower body anymore. It's like I'm stood on pipe cleaners. So we need to sort that out and get some muscle mass going back on there. But no, I've been doing chins, I've been doing pulls, I've been doing leg raises off a kitchen bench. It's all home-based body weight stuff I've been doing. You know, your press ups, that kind of stuff. And I've been steadily getting stronger. I've been steadily at the beginning of the month, to be honest with you, I could probably do 1, maybe 2 pull-ups if I was lucky. And I'm ripping off sets of 5 and 6 of those now a month later, and doing it 2 or 3 times rather than doing 2 pull-ups and then I'm that's it for the day sort of thing. So that's all getting better. Whether or not it would have got better doing that on a different diet, who's to say? Probably would have, but I don't know. I may not have been motivated to even try because it would be like, So I feel like I've got more energy for things. I feel like I've got a better headspace.
What's the meal frequency looking like and the overall caloric load, if you're keeping track of that?
Yeah, so it's still basically 1 meal a day. And sometimes 1 meal every other day I've been doing as well. And the caloric load is around about 1 to 1.5 grams of protein per gram of lean body mass, plus an equivalent amount of calorie in the form of fat. So, well and truly under the usual 2 to 2.5K calorie diets suggested by most people out there. Well and truly under. But I'm not hungry. I'm eating to satiety. I'm eating to complete fullness every time. I'm not waking up in the middle of the night thinking, God, it would be nice to have something to eat now. And when I've been doing the rolling 48-hour fasts, they haven't really been that difficult either. So you'd eat one day, say it was Monday, and then you'd eat again on the Wednesday sort of thing. So you'd have nothing at all to eat on the Tuesday, for example.
Right.
And usually the first day of a fast is the hardest day. Also during the month, just because Pim was doing one, I did one with her. We did basically a 5-day fast that was thrown in about a week ago. And that was no real, until day 5 when we really thought, okay, it'd be nice to eat now. Just no issues at all. It was really easy. It was, and doing it together obviously makes it easier to undertake any of these kind of things too.
Can you tell us about like the electrolytes that you're taking in during these fasts and stuff like that?
Yeah. The fluids, Pim makes up snake juice as per, she has a recipe that I think she's spoken about quite a bit on her channel and stuff. It's, I think it's half a teaspoon of sodium chloride and 1/4 teaspoon of potassium chloride, and sometimes a few other bits and bobs as well, depending on how she's feeling about stuff. And that's in each, I think it's 1.5 liters of water. Don't quote me. I don't even know. She does all of that stuff.
And but you guys are taking in some electrolytes, is what I'm getting.
Yeah, and also I tend to add salt to everything I eat as well. Whether or not that's necessary, whether it's truly beneficial, that there's actually, the jury's out on that one as well. Coach Ray, my coach, says that at the stage he's at now, he actually is now 100% carnivore, no plant material, and no salt as well. He adds no salt at all. And he thinks that he's got some extra added benefits and bonuses out of doing that. But he doesn't suggest that for people who are just getting started in their first few months of it. Cool. So, I mean, I might try no salt later on down the track when I have my expert card. So I guess we'll see.
How's the meat sourcing? Like, what kind of meat are you eating? Is it just standard store stuff, or are you guys like really sourcing some crazy high quality meat? Yeah,
we have a local chain butcher supplier that we go to. They have lots of really good deals. Pretty much all the meat in New Zealand is all grass raised, grass finished. We don't have grain fed meat here at all. It's just not even a thing because we don't have the difference in seasons as much as you guys do. It doesn't get that cold here. Grass grows all year round and animals live on the grass their whole lives. So that's what it is here. Throw in a bit of seafood, probably once a week, maybe once every other week sometimes. Not huge on seafood. So mainly it's been beef, with lamb has been second, then pork, then chicken, then fish, in that order of frequency of consumption. Lately, I got a bit bored of beef, and I thought, I actually really enjoy lamb, and so I've kind of swapped lamb and beef. So now it's lamb first, beef second, pork third, chicken fourth, and seafood fifth, behind all of those things. It's pretty idyllic here in New Zealand in terms of the meat. We're pretty lucky.
Yeah, I noticed that in Hawaii actually, and the ironic thing, living in Hawaii for 2 years, being vegan there because I thought that would be the place to get all the tropical fruits and be able to shop cheap at the local markets. It was kind of true because it was tropics and those fruits were available, but they weren't cheap. It's not like they were so abundant. Like, sure, if you wanted bananas and papaya, that was dirt cheap for sure. But if you wanted coconuts, for instance, unless you knew somebody to actually go climb the trees to get you coconuts and bring them to your door, which we did have a coconut dealer. I mean, like, sounds like we're joking, but we had a coconut dealer that would drop off 75 coconuts at a time or something like that. But they were still $2 or $3 a pop. I mean, they weren't free, and people think that this stuff is free. And then the problem is you talk about like oranges, other things that you take for granted on the mainland, oranges, apples, all of the stone fruits like peaches, strawberries, stuff like that. That stuff is impossible to find there. So you trade the stuff that you think you don't even think twice about, and then that stuff becomes impossible to get. So it ends up being the same thing, if not worse, and more expensive. But then you find out that actually the meat there is really good, and the beef, the cattle, like you said, the grass is growing year round. They're just mowing down all that grass. It rains and it's sunny, and there's tons and tons of grass for these cattle to eat, and there's tons of cow production on these islands. And my friends were getting grass-fed beef for like $9 a pound USD, like locally raised down the street, and that would be unheard of here. I mean, if I were to get that from a farmer's market here, mainland style, I would be paying $20 to $25 a pound, and they're paying $8 or $9 a pound. So awesome. Truly amazing, Yeah. So as far as the meal frequency goes, what were you eating before, and like how much a day were you eating before compared to now?
Okay, so I've been eating basically one meal a day for probably over 10 years, actually. I've never been a 3 or even more meals a day character. any time in the last 10 years, at least. The only real difference was how that meal was made up, whether it was carb and grain-based nonsense before the carnivore diet came around for me. So in terms of volume, I don't think anything hugely has changed. It's just the makeup of it that's changed completely. From originally 10 years ago, a basically omnivorous existence, to now a hyper carnivore existence. Interesting journey, but no real changes in volume or frequency of food intakes.
Okay. But I mean, the carnivore stuff, you would have still believed in that approach, even if you may have not been doing it to a T the past 1 to 2 years. Am I right in saying that?
About 4 years. I've been a true believer that carnivore is probably the right way to go.
Right.
I just haven't had the self-discipline really to give it a proper shove, give it a proper go. My weaknesses have been things like pizza, potato chips, sweets, fruit juices, okay, that sort of thing, and obviously alcohol.
When you consume those things, are you somebody who really enjoys consuming them for the like social flavor taste bud explosion aspect of it, or like what is it to you that draws you to those foods, your weaknesses that you said, that is like so hard to resist?
I think it's pretty similar to most people, and in that the companies that design and make these food-like substances really know what they're doing in terms of what appeals to the human palate, what appeals to the human body as an amazing treat that we are genetically programmed to grab hold of anytime we could, because we just couldn't get things like that. And now they're available 24/7 all the time. And it just becomes a dopamine cycle. It becomes an addiction that people just have to keep subserving the need to have that hit. And it literally is a hit.
Well, in college, we had a marketing course, and they talked about how Doritos spent millions of dollars hiring a team to perfect the amount of crunch that you get per chip. They basically found the optimal crunch to make humans most addicted to those chips. And that's why that's part of why, there's the flavor, there's all the other stuff that goes along, but it's partly they know about this stuff.
I need to correct white pilled in the chat there.
How about it?
Bart starving himself to lean out. How long will his endocrine system hold up? Okay. If you were listening to the discussion that Drew and I have been having from the beginning, white pilled, you'd understand that neither am I starving myself at all, nor am I actually under any kind of stress right now. In fact, I'm at the lowest ebb of my personal, physiological, and emotional stress that I've been in years. Okay. So let me just repeat again. I am eating as often as I want to, and I'm eating as much as I want to every single time I have a meal, to the point where I get to, I couldn't eat another bite. Okay. I am absolutely pogged to the max with food every time I eat. It so happens that that's once a day, and sometimes once every other day for the last month or so. Okay. Every indicator of stress, distress, all of that, they are all now vastly improved over what they were a month ago before I started doing this. There is no sign of endocrine stress going on in my body at all. Okay. So thanks for your comment though. But no, not at all.
But for people who are either new to Bart or want my take on Bart, I'm going to talk about the man as if he's not sitting right here, but he is. Okay, guys. So, but to me, Bart has always been somebody who was fired up, always fired up on his channel or on my channel, or, that was probably partially the caffeine, because I know how I feel when I'm drinking buckets of caffeine, and it's almost like an aggression. You have no patience for anything. And a part of that is probably the diet. And I do notice the relaxation effects of consuming a highly nutritious, high fat, sort of high protein diet. You are satisfied after each meal. Your level, your mood kind of just, it feels like a load's taken off after you eat that. But there is some other stuff that I've been learning about, and I've been kind of going deeper the past few months on hormones. And I don't know how much you get into the hormones and understand this stuff, like physiologically speaking, the like cortisol and this type of stuff. I'd love to talk more about that. And by the way, Rob Bliss, I see you in the chat. We're going to get you on the channel again soon for an update. But yeah, so here's something. I'm going to throw a couple little notes that I've found the past few weeks. See, the reason I asked you that question about the food, you know, the pizza and what makes you love that stuff so much. And you said, well, everybody's like that. Well, maybe I'm the weirdo because I actually am not drawn to those foods. The things that I'm drawn to are the things that actually make me feel good after I eat them. So like, and that's probably why I like stimulants, because that makes me feel good after I do it. You know, it's more of like, I like the effects of things. And when I eat pizza and these type of foods, yes, of course it tastes good. I'm not telling you the pizza tastes bad. I'm just saying that the way I feel afterwards does not outweigh the taste bud explosion effect of it. And I've never felt odd eating like vegan around my family or anything like that. So it's not the social aspect for me. I don't care about that either. It's for me, it's like I eat what tastes pretty good, but makes me feel even better. And that's always what I've been after. And also I've suffered such horrible digestive issues and discomforts eating the wrong foods, of which I had some yesterday. You know, I'm still playing around with these foods, but I can go weeks and weeks and weeks now with flawless digestion. Like it's a joke now to me. And I am actually putting in a lot of these different foods like breads. I've kind of cut back on rice a bit. But I've added in things like fruit and some fibers. But you know, if I even eat spices, like yesterday I had a bowl of chili, a bunch of cayenne pepper in there, a bunch of beans. That's a disaster. It was a disaster today. And so these things I know, I basically note it in my mind and I'm like, don't eat that again. You know, I don't care how good it tastes. So, yeah, I guess, I don't even know where I was going with that, but, the cortisol thing. Sorry, I had to remember this. Cortisol thing, because I've noticed that the more stressed that you feel, that I feel like stress equals cortisol release. Cortisol is countered by sugar in the body. So cortisol goes down when you consume sugar and carbohydrate. And I'm wondering what your like level of awareness or knowledge is on this. It kind of makes me realize why people like eating such harmful foods, sugary foods, because it lowers the stress level in their body, you know, mechanically from eating that sugar. So what do you know about that?
Yeah. So anytime that you consume foods which either are sugar or indeed tend to dump sugar into your bloodstream pretty quickly, you are going to have that hormonal disturbance over the next several hours, which is always going to end up with your blood sugar ending up lower still than it started before you had the blood sugar spiking substance. And so you've got this balance between your different hormones that control the appetites, I guess, or the desires, switch things up and down. I want salt, I want sugar, I want sweet, I want savory. These things are controlled by hormones as well as by the microbiome, or the little beasties that live in your gut. They're pulling on various different bell cables, if you like, ringing different bells in your brain. It's incredible the level of control over your very thought processes and your very desires that the situation can have. I don't know how much depth you want to get into on the actual hormones and things, but you certainly could give us some pearls of knowledge, if you like, there, Drew, and I can.
I'm basically diving in as a layman. I'm doing what I can to read studies, understand them. I don't like to read headlines and just go off that. I try to actually go to these studies that people are talking about. A lot of times, as you know, people link studies that actually counter their own damn argument half the time.
Yeah.
So you got to really understand. And then even the conclusions of these studies, if you can then pick them apart further, this is where I would consult somebody like you who would say, well, actually the study is designed incorrectly from the start. So the conclusion is all off. So we can just basically throw that study out. Now, that's why I don't focus on studies too much lately. But what I do notice is that, so if I'm working out, that's going to cause a cortisol release. And when you start pumping your muscles up and you start getting your body sort of into this mechanistic fight or flight mode, because you're working out, you're inducing it, your body's going to release a cortisol. This isn't considered a negative health consequence. It's a positive one. It's something that'll actually help you out. But at the same time, I notice when I drink sugar while I'm working out, like if I have a soda shortly after working out or while working out, or I have a soda while I'm drinking caffeine, for instance, like sugar in my coffee, I notice it counteracts some of the cortisol release of those activities. So I'm somebody who, if I have, let's say I have a big, strong coffee, I have a very strong reaction to it. And sometimes I can actually get fight or flighty in my body, kind of skin crawling, not feeling good. Like I it's a bit sweaty under the armpits, cold hands, you're almost like sick from the caffeine. This can happen with nicotine too, by the way, guys. And so I notice that when I drink sugar at those times, it actually can really counteract the negative effects of the cortisol. Now, maybe we're going in a big loop here. We're doing two bad things that equal out and make you feel not so bad, but your blood sugar is actually through the roof and you're making yourself sick. I don't doubt that for a second. I'm just saying that mentally, the stress level goes down. Now, would you say that makes sense? Yeah. Biologically, that actually makes sense. That adds up.
Yep. If you've got fight or flight going on, then one of the things that your body is going to want is it's going to want a bolus of carbohydrate available for rapid energy release for your said fighting or flighting that is to come. Caffeine will certainly attenuate that situation and assist that in occurring as well. Plus, caffeine has direct effects on a number of different, like your calcium channels, for example, which can have an effect directly on which neurons in your brain even are active and which ones are less active, and can actually affect your very perception. And it can all balance out in such a way as that you think, well, I'm powerful now, this is optimal. And there are many athletes that are doing exactly that. They're trying to hack the way they feel psychologically without necessarily thinking about what actual effect is this having on my body physiologically. Is this actually doing me damage if I do this every time I get ready to compete or do something or whatever? And this is one of the reasons why I've often said that people that put athletes up as examples of how to be healthy usually are people that don't understand the kind of crap that athletes get up to.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. I think, and I mentioned before you got on, that bodybuilders are these guys who are dying in their 30s and 40s of alleged genetic heart defects that they didn't know they had. It's like, well, what if they just caused some genetic defect to manifest because they're consuming meals 5 to 6 times a day. They're consuming 2 protein powders a day, which is spiking the hell out of their blood glucose. They're processed food at that. They're doing a bunch of things, biologically speaking, I guess, metabolically speaking, that would increase the aging process essentially. And they're who knows what they're doing. Like I used to kind of bash on fasting a little bit, but I'm kind of coming around to understanding that it is somewhat of a healthy thing to at least mix in to the program, And lately I've been eating more meals per day. I've been eating 4 to 5 times a day. If you want to include like a bit of honey and butter into my coffee. Again, I notice that it balances itself out when I drink that, because sometimes I drink coffee, I just feel revved up and not so amazing. But when I throw in that sugar and I throw in that butter, it soothes the coffee. It makes the coffee I'm relaxed and I'm energized. That there's a difference there. Before I was just energized, you know. And then the 5 meals a day, I'm eating, you know, not 5 huge meals, but I'm eating smaller meals, and I'm doing this on purpose because I am trying to spike the mTOR response first and foremost. And I'm doing it in a way where I'm aware of what I'm taking in. I'm not necessarily trying to eat the biggest insulin spiking foods possible. And I did mention that you've done a whole probably series of videos at this point talking about the glycogen index. And can you share with us a little bit more about that? And do you stand by those statements that you made probably two years ago at this point about the glycogen index?
Yeah. So it's generally referred to as the GI scale, and it's touted by most people in nutrition fields to be a gauge of the rate at which a certain carbohydrate-based food will dump sugar into your bloodstream after you eat it. So there are 2 different markers that they use. One is white bread and the other one is pure glucose. And if you are using glucose as your starting point, then glucose is deemed to have a glycemic index of 100, and all other carbohydrates have a number either usually lower than 100, but actually white bread has 110 usually. And sometimes people therefore use white bread as the marker, and so they say white bread is 100, and then everything else is a number relative to that. What it is they gave X number of subjects in a laboratory a measured bolus of X different carbohydrate foods, and then they followed their blood sugar over the next several hours, and you get this spike that goes basically. So you eat carbohydrates, it dumps sugar into your bloodstream, you get a spike, and then it returns to normal. What they've done is they've used both the magnitude of how high the spike is and how wide the spike is in time. In other words, they integrate the area underneath that curve, which is a mathematical way of saying working out the area underneath it. And then it's that number that they compare to the area under the either glucose or bread curve to give it a food a number. So from that, they'll say whole wheat has a GI of 55, therefore it has half the effect on your blood sugar as white bread does, for example. Or this piece of fruit has a GI of 47, so it's 47% the effect of some glucose, that sort of thing. The issue with it is an issue of reliability, repeatability of measurement. If you take 100 different individuals and you give those 100 different individuals the exact same measured dose of white bread, they will all respond differently. You will be slightly different from me. I will be slightly different from the next person, and so on and so on. So you get a range of results, which means you have a standard deviation of responses around what will be reported as the mean overall response of everybody. Okay. That error is almost the entire GI scale. The error, basically 2 standard deviations either side of the mean, is basically so wide that the measurement itself is meaningless for any given individual. The only way to know what the GI is of a piece of bread for Drew Morg is for Drew Morg to eat the white bread, and for us to measure Drew Morg's response. Which brings up the second problem. If we measure Drew Morg today, and the same time next week, and the week after that, and the week after that, everything else equal, no training, no change in season, nothing else, just a repeat measurement with everything controlled, Drew Morg's response will be different every single time as well. The GI scale, mathematically, statistically, is completely useless. There is no way that we can make an assertion that whole wheat has less of an effect on your blood sugar than white bread does. We cannot support that with science. We can only support that with ideology. So yes, I do stand by the comments I've made about it. It is pseudoscience. It is crack pottery. It is window dressing dressed up to look like science. It's nothing of the sort. It's nonsense. There are no better or worse carbohydrates in the human diet. They are all contraindicated.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. So we basically can't, because the scale is crap, we basically can't say there's any one carbohydrate that's better or worse than another. They're pretty much all on the same level, because we can make assumptions that some will spike sooner and harder than others. Like I don't think anybody can. No,
not even do that. No,
really,
it's that unreliable, Drew. It's an absolute sham.
So we can't even say that. Let's say 2 teaspoons of white sugar is going to be more responsive than brown rice. Like, isn't that
correct.
Almost?
In actual fact, if anything, the rice is likely to be worse than the table sugar in terms of its blood glucose response.
Wow. Okay. So if you're going to eat some carbs, it might as well just make it whatever tastes good at that point. There's no point in trying to hold back.
Well, pretty much that's what I'm saying. Look, there is no physiological requirement for human beings to consume any carbohydrates at all, ever, not 1 gram.
And can you tell us more about the mechanistic data of the mechanistic response of sugar in the bloodstream? Because I always found this fascinating when you would explain it. You're talking about, we know that sugar can damage your arteries, or does damage your arteries. We know that cholesterol comes to repair it and leaves, scar tissue basically, which then builds up and screws you over long term. Is that pretty much still this? Is that current meta science right now?
Yep, it is. Basically, there are a number of things that, if the concentration of those things is too high in your blood, those things will damage both the blood cells, and also any cells lining the blood vessel walls, for example. One of those things is glucose. While you need a low level of glucose, a certain level of glucose in your blood at all times to keep you alive, that exact amount of glucose can be produced by your body from non-glucose sources. And your body does do that. Actually, it's a demand-driven process. When, however, we supply carbohydrate in a form that is already carbohydrate, it starts to build up in your blood, and that is toxic. That physically damages the structures. It glycates your red blood cells, for example, and the measurement of that is a thing you've probably heard of called the HbA1c reading.
I have heard of it.
A person will take a little bit of their blood and put it in a machine, and the machine will tell them how glycated those red blood cells are. The more glycated they are, the higher your HbA1c, the more damaged your blood cells are by glucose. You've had too much, and it's an indication that your blood glucose control has been poor. When glucose builds up in your blood, your body then needs to process that through the liver, and the way it does that is it turns it into triglyceride to store it as fat. Because fat in your body is not toxic. Sugar is. That's why your body turns the sugar into fat to store it. Otherwise, it would just store it as sugar, wouldn't it?
Right.
So there's your argument right there that fat is not fat in the form that your body has it anyway, is not toxic to you. Triglyceride, saturated fat, basically, and sugar is. Absolutely.
I'd like to throw a curveball into this equation, though, and I'm sure you're aware of this, but the muscles do store sugar roughly the same way as it comes in, right? So we convert it from glucose to glycogen, or is that just a straight through process?
Glycogen is just glucose starch, basically. It's just molecules of glucose banged together into a mesh, if you like. And muscles require glycogen in order to contract and relax. and muscles derive the glucose that they require to form that glycogen from the blood glucose. Yes, absolutely. That said, if your muscles require glucose and they draw glucose out of your blood, as they will do, that will lower the concentration of glucose in your blood. And then your body will react by producing more glucose if you haven't eaten some glucose. So you still don't need to eat glucose because your body will make it from fat.
Hold on though. So we have a situation where we know the body can store, I believe it's 400 grams in the skeletal muscles and 100 grams in the liver, right? Roughly.
Something like that. Yeah.
So give or take, whatever. So if we're somebody who's athletically doing athletics daily or every other day, and we're constantly depleting that carbohydrate tank, the glycogen tank in the muscles, if you will, wouldn't you say that those people would respond much better to additional carbohydrate intake because the muscles would just soak that up and not really leave the bloodstream to be dealing with all this extra sugar, and they're not really converting into fat because they're actually intaking into the muscles, right?
Right. So an athlete who is eating a lot of carbohydrates the muscles will be completely replete with glycogen after they've trained and after they've taken their glucose bolus, their carbohydrate food, whatever that was. It'll be broken down into glucose. It'll be released into the bloodstream. The muscles will draw it out of the bloodstream and refill the glycogen stores, and any spare still goes back to the liver and gets transmuted into triglyceride, which then gets trucked off to the adipose tissue for storage. An athlete that eats no carbohydrates at all will derive all the sugar from stored triglycerides that they need for their muscular activity. And exactly there's no issue with that. What occurs, however, in the first few months that an athlete who has been running on carbohydrates for any period of time, they change their diet and decide, I'm going to go low carb now, I'm not going to eat so many carbs. That athlete's performance will decline for the next several months while their body learns how to use fat properly once again. So there will be some shortfall in that athlete. And then those athletes say, oh, that proves it, then you have to eat carbohydrates for performance. Until you realize that the athlete that is actually prepared to go through that slump in their performance for a few months, they come out the other side with all the right enzymes and all the right body knowledge on how to run on fat again. And those athletes perform better, in fact, than the athletes eating a bunch of carbs. And I'll tell you why. Because carbohydrates come along with inflammation, as what we spoke about, Drew, earlier in this discussion with myself. Not that I'm a high-level athlete or anything, but I removed all the carbs from my diet. All the inflammation melted away. Same thing happens with these athletes. And I tell you what, an athlete that's not inflamed will outperform an athlete that's inflamed any day of the week.
They can probably recover better.
The reason you don't hear about these athletes that are fully carnivorous is because they don't want you to know. They don't want you to know because that's their competitive edge. But I can tell you, as an exercise physiologist who has worked, and reasonably recently, with some high-level athletes, I can tell you that it's more common than you think in athletic circles. There are a lot of athletes now who understand this and who are fully carnivorous. Never eat any carbs at all. And we're talking endurance athletes.
It's the endurance athletes. Okay.
Like Niall Function. Okay, he's a marathon swimmer. His event is like he's going to swim the Molokai, which is 26 miles
in Hawaii
in one day. Why? Because he's mad. That's
no. Is that in Hawaii?
Yeah,
Molokai?
It is. Yeah, okay. I thought you said why. Why? Because he's mad.
He's mad.
That's what he does. Okay, not 1 gram of carbohydrate in his diet.
Okay. See, I can see it. I can see that for an endurance athlete. I get it for an endurance athlete, but for like an explosive athlete, a football player, somebody who's like an MMA fighter, they require a maximal effort. I don't. You can physically see it in their muscle when they're holding more glycogen. They are bigger and heavier and denser.
So glycogen storage level is a function of training.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a function of diet.
Okay.
Now, I could also name you some All Blacks.
Okay.
And I could also name you some MMA fighters from down this side of the world who are also carnivorous. I'm not naming those guys because they haven't come out publicly and said, I'm a carnivore. I named Niall because he has done.
Okay. Fair enough.
I'm just telling you, as an exercise physiologist who does work with these guys, who I do consult with these kind of characters, you know, I do have a long publication history in this field. I'm reasonably well known down here on this side of the world as an exercise physiologist of some note. So I'm not just, you know, some crazy guy that does online consultancies or whatever. And I'm telling you that there are some guys here that are powerful athletes. There are some guys that are endurance athletes. It makes no difference. All they have to do is be prepared to go through that transition period and retrain their bodies.
I think, no, not John Anderson. That's another carnivore dude. I guess anyway, so I don't really want to get into that, but there was a famous, extremely steroided out bodybuilder that was on Sean Baker's show that was talking about this. And he said that carnivore took him a couple months to adjust as well. And then the demand driven cycle of it all worked out in the end. And he was able to perform at his best or better as a carnivore. But again, that's somebody who I haven't seen people come out publicly who are not on some kind of steroids talking about this yet. And I don't know if these professional athletes you're talking about are on those type of performance enhancers. I'm of the mindset that most professional athletes in these sports are actually on performance enhancers. So it's hard to take their data points and apply it to like the average population who's not enhancing with steroids and all this other stuff. So it's just from a practical aspect, I haven't seen it work with my own eyes just yet. And I would love to see that because I think it's possible. And I know that myself, I've experimented with it a lot. Now I will have to say I've never been 100% carnivore for any more than like 40 days. But when I did do it I did like 95% carnivore for maybe about a year and a half, and eating 2 meals a day. And maybe it was the 2 meals a day that was holding me back, or maybe it was the carnivore style that was holding me back. But I will say that it was very difficult to put on muscle mass past a certain point. I will say that it was definitely superior to anything I experienced as a vegan. Yeah. And even as a vegan on protein powder at that. So we're talking 2 meals a day, carnivore style, no protein powder, still outperforming my vegan self. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, to me, it's like, as I've incorporated carbohydrates, as I've incorporated the more meals a day, boom, all of a sudden the athletic performance is exploding again. I'm gaining weight and it's almost like I'm having to tone it back. Okay, let's make sure we're not gaining a bunch of extra fat here. Let's make sure that we're not gaining a bunch of exercise here. But again, there's a lot of people out there that are like obsessed almost with nailing this OMAD thing and trying to be performance oriented. And I don't know that those things work. And of course, meal frequency and carnivore are not mutually exclusive to each other. But I find that a lot of people do them together because they are easier to do together. And like you said, on your diet, you're eating every day or every other day, and it's easy because you're doing carnivore. And I would back that up 100%. When you're eating just proteins and just fats, you get adjusted to that. Like I'd say at least a week of doing that, your appetite goes way down and your body is running on basically just body fat. It's amazing. And it's very noticeable. It's not something that this ethereal, fringe thing, like it will happen to you. I can guarantee it. So it seems like you've felt the same, and obviously you're performing too, and you work with athletes that do this. So I don't know. I'm very interested in this. I just haven't seen it done, and I want to know more. But there's not enough people doing it.
It is. Well, there actually are. That's what I'm saying to you, Drew. They're just not telling you about it because they're secretly doing it, because it actually does provide them, as I say, with a real competitive edge once they get through the far side of the slump that you get when you transition your body from doing one thing into doing another thing. It is one of those things that you do have to see with your own eyes to fully grasp, to fully understand, to fully get on board with it and go like, yeah, this is real. this does work, this is right.
Mm-hmm.
The toughest thing with athletes is getting them to be prepared to go through that slump.
Yeah.
Athletes don't want to go backwards ever.
Yeah.
Even when going backwards ends up with you ending up far ahead of where you were, they're still reticent. They still don't, a lot of them still don't want to go through that going backwards in the first instance thing. So that's what we're kind of up against with it there. What we're also up against is this whole nutritional sports science ideology that's prevailed for the last 80, 100 years that says you need carbs for exercise, you need carbs for energy, you have to take carbs in for optimal performance, athletes run on carbs. This whole idea that there are 3 different energy systems in the body. There isn't, by the way. That's covered in another series of videos I've done as well. Yeah, so that's the difficulty. That's why people, I guess, haven't seen it. That's why it hasn't become mainstream any more than the non-athletic changes to what we believe to be indicated for human beings has become mainstream either. There are still people saying animal fat's bad for you, it'll give you heart disease. There are still people saying meat will give you cancer. There are still people saying you're going to be short of vitamin C. There are still people saying if you don't eat fiber, you'll get colon cancer and all this kind of stuff. And that will continue, I think, probably until, well, I don't know. There is so much money tied up in that.
Yeah.
There is so much invested in that by so many people that they're just not able to look objectively at the empirical evidence that clearly shows that to be a fallacy. There are people who are not capable of seeing anything except what they want to see, like your friend in the chat there, White Pilled, who's still going on, still trolling, still making absolutely ridiculous statements without any backing in reality, science, or evidence of any kind. This is a guy that's just here to troll, giving his opinions, mindless as they are, to what is basically an audience who are already converts. White Pilled, you're wasting your time here, son. You really are. What are you doing? Nobody is interested in your mindless and clearly untrained opinion on these matters. You're an idiot. Go and find something to do. Go and play with your Legos or something. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, I haven't been paying attention to the chat too much. That's whenever I go into interview mode, I'm basically not even with the chat. Yeah, I kind of like keep one eye on it, but not really, because it's hard to do both at the same time. If you want to, if I want to engage, it's very difficult. But yeah, kind of going back to what you said, there's a lot of money tied up in keeping people confused and releasing their own science experiments that tell people, the Cheerios are healthy for you or whatever. The sugar is actually good for you today. Oh, the omega-3s are good for you today. And there's a war on omega-3s now. Like this is something I never saw coming. There's the PUFA omega-3 situation. People are like, you don't need omega-3s anymore. Not only do you not supplement with those, you don't even need them in your diet. Cut fish out as much as possible. And I'm like, I did not see that coming. Like that. I thought that was perfect. I thought eating salmon as much as you wanted was good, as long as it wasn't contaminated and mercurious or whatever. So I don't know, maybe we should get into that. But before we move on, I do want to point out, again, you can only go by your own findings, your own experience at some point, right? And okay, maybe I didn't do carnivore 100% for 6 months straight to get
you did it wrong.
I did it wrong. I admit that I did it wrong, right?
Yeah.
But that being said, we see really tremendous athletes eating the triple energy system type way. Maybe it is entrenched into our mindset, into our system, to eat 33% carbs, 33% fat, 33% protein for optimal athletic results. But what I will say from my own notes is, number one, eating more meals a day doesn't give you more energy. It makes you grow more. It doesn't give you more energy. I feel I have less energy eating more times per day than I did when I was eating 2 meals a day. Back when I was eating 2 meals a day, this was as recent as maybe 4 weeks ago, I was sleeping 9 to 10 hours a night. And then for the rest of the day, I had crazy energy. I was walking for an hour in the morning. Then I would work out for almost an hour each day. Then I would go hit golf balls at the driving range for an hour, hour and a half every single day. And I was doing this day after day after day. I couldn't believe how much energy I had. Of course, by 8 or 9 p.m., I'm spent. I'd lay down. My arms are completely stiff sore. I'd wake up the next day after 9 or 10 hours of sleep. It would almost all be healed. Like the inflammation in my arms would all be, boom, back to normal. And then I would go do it again. But as I've been eating more times per day, and admittedly a little bit more carbs per day as well, because I'm curious. Okay, I've been seeing these people put honey in their coffee. I want to try it. I put it in there. It stops my fast. That's something that I want to accomplish right now. I want to stop my fast early in the day because I want to grow. Now, there is an end goal for me here. I want to grow to a point where I'm like, okay, this is the right amount of size for me on my frame. I'm 5'10". I want to be maybe 175 pounds, lean, but I'm going to need to get to 185 pounds to get there. And then I can scale it back with the appropriate, maybe at that point I go 2 meals a day, 100% carnivore for 6 months and see what happens. And then strip all that fat off of me and we'll see what happens there. But to me, it's nearly impossible to gain, as a matter of fact, I can say it's impossible to gain any significant muscle mass on a carnivore diet for me, eating 2 meals a day. To me, it's impossible. I mean, I need dairy at the very minimum. If we're talking 2 meals a day strictly, I need dairy at minimum with those meals to even maintain weight or gain just a little bit. And it's very counterproductive, you know? I hate to see somebody spend 4, 6, 9, 10 months in the gym putting out the effort and not getting where they want to go because they're just not eating enough food. And I'm very curious if carnivore could get me the results that I want. If I were to eat carnivore 5 meals a day, I'm very curious about that. I wonder what would happen. I don't know. I've never tried that. I've only tried carnivore and 2 meals a day. But going back to the hunger thing, if we're doing carnivore properly, we're probably not hungry. So it's going to be very difficult to eat 5 meals a day, even if they're little tiny meals. This is just my experience. This is stuff that I put together over years of trying different things. And people are always like, well, just get on protein powders. Just do this, just do that. Yeah, you will gain more by doing those things. But in my opinion, it's cheating and it's unhealthy. I feel like you can make it happen without those things, but you're just going to have to experiment what's going to work for you, you know? And for something like you're doing right now, I love that, what you're doing, because there's an aspect of fasting and carnivory which will not just help you lose inflammation and lose weight and all these other good positive things and improve your health markers, but it also is going to strip away the addictions that people have. And I am a big believer in that, you know? Just remove it all. Like, take it all away. Like, lock your brain in a cell with a couple of steaks a day, and boom, you're gonna, all of a sudden you don't need coffee as much. All of a sudden you don't need beer as much. It's very difficult to manage those addictions while you're eating 4 or 5 times a day, spiking your insulin, spiking your mTOR, spiking your insulin. You're on this constant rotation, you know?
Yeah. So I mean, clearly the difference between what you're doing and what I'm doing, Drew, is that you are in a phase where you are looking for anabolism.
Yes. Yeah.
I am in a stage where I'm looking for catabolism.
Yep.
Before I then turn around and start being anabolic after that.
Yep.
The way I'm going to do that when I switch over across to wanting to look for some anabolism will be that I will be increasing the amount of food that I am taking in, but it will not be in the form of carbohydrate. It will be in the form of more protein and more fat.
Might I add more meal frequency?
Yeah, I may well have more meal frequency. I may go to 2 meals a day when I get to the point where I start really putting some muscle mass on. I'm not really looking for that until I get all of the crap melted off that needs to be melted off. And I don't just mean the body fat and the bloating. I mean all of that stuff I've been carrying around. So it's a progressive thing. There's a question there about MCT oil. It's one of those things that you can experiment with, and if you feel that it's good and it works for you, then I would say absolutely. There's nothing wrong with MCT oil for the most part. You do need to be a little bit careful with oil of any kind, though, And the reason I say that is because manufacturing processes by a lot of companies that make various oils, and I'm thinking specifically not so much about MCT here. I'm thinking directly at this point about omega-3, and it was one that Drew mentioned a bit back. Omega-3 oils that you buy have a tendency to be very, very badly oxidized, very rancid, very, very dangerous, in fact, for your health. There's a research study that was published a couple of years ago done by Pim Johnson and some other character that she was working with on that project, some other clown. And what they did is they put some omega-3 oil into a magnetic resonance spectroscopy machine, which is able to measure on the molecular level exactly what's in it, and even down to very minute quantities of exactly what's in the supplement. And what we found was that 2/3 of them were badly oxidized with all sorts of stuff like aldehydes, for example, which even in minute quantities will tear up lipid rafts, destroy cell membranes, kill cell organelles, pillage your DNA. So, carcinogens, I should say. Really, really very toxic, very poisonous crap. So just be careful. I find that the best place to get all the nutrients that my body requires is from my diet, which is based on the muscle meats of the ruminant animals with smaller amounts of non-ruminant animals thrown in and associated animal fat that comes along with that. I take no nutritional supplements for nutritional purpose at all. The supplements that I am involved in marketing do have some, like they've got vitamin A in them, for example. Well, it's fine. I don't need any additional vitamin A. I get it from my diet. And I don't take or promote those supplements because they contain vitamins and minerals and things. They're just in there because the company have seen fit to put them in there. It's a good marketing thing. They like it, whatever. I'm not interested in that. The supplements that I am involved in marketing are a nutraceutical, which are taken for a specific effect on the body, that being causing your body to release your adult stem cells into your blood, where they then go and do magnificent, miraculous things for your body. So nothing to do with nutrition at all. So when I say I don't take any nutritional supplements, that's why I say that. I do take this range of supplements, but I do that because I want the adult stem cells to run around my body and turn themselves into brand new cells of whatever kind my body desires or it's going to make, and to do that with full length telomeres, if you please. In other words, those new tissues are biological age 0 rather than the nearly 50 that I am. That's why I promote those supplements. So there you go. I got in the plug for the supplements. The address, if you want to check it out, is at the bottom of the screen. There, HTTPS, etc. That's where you can find out all about that.
It's just cut off because of the way that I have the screen sized.
Oh, right.
Your poor link there. But feel free to put it in the chat if you want to plug that in there, Bart, by all means. Oh, there you go. Beautiful.
How's that?
It's up there now. Great.
There you go. There it is. Just like that. And certainly we could put that also in the chat. I'll do that for you now so that you can actually just click on it. You don't even have to type it out.
I would like to get into my favorite realm, Bart, because I do claim to be the world's foremost expert on human digestion. At least tied for the top 3 in the world. Drew Morg, and then I don't know the other 2. But how do you feel your digestion is on the carnivore diet? Can you give us some nitty gritty on that? Because we go deep here.
Absolutely. A month in now, still not absolutely perfect. There are still some hangovers from my self-abuse, from the alcohol, from the potato chips, from the spices, from the bullshit, basically. Mm-hmm. There's still a little bit of inflammation. There's still a little bit of tenderness, which is resolving day by day. In terms of function, never better. And I have in my life had every digestive disorder you can imagine, just about. I have had pancreatitis. I've had diverticulitis. I've had hiatus hernias. I've had gastric reflux. I've had gluten intolerance.
If I pretend I'm walking.
You name it.
Oh, that worked.
I don't know.
That
Can you
did
hear
it.
this part? Can you
So
hear
I can
this?
just sit here. Although that is like movement. This is. I'm gonna get tired like real quick.
Thanks for the super chat there, Marcus. And Kaleidoscope Studios, I'm so sorry. I saw your super chat flowing, but it was right when Bart came on and I couldn't ruin the flow of it. They asked, how's your diet nowadays? Good to see you back on YouTube. Thank you. Hopefully you're getting a sense of what my diet is these days, because we've been kind of going back and forth. It's been slowly unfurling as we go along. But once again, thank you, Marcus. And we'll let Bart get back to what he was telling us, which is about his digestion. Continue, Bart. It's been amazing.
As good as it's ever been. The reflux is basically resolved. It's much less acidy and much less often. And when it does happen, it's usually because I have drunk more salt water than I should have, or not enough salt water. There's a level where it seems to help to regulate the acidity at just the right level. I don't know if people understand this, but one of the things that your body uses to control the acidity of your stomach is salt. That's in fact how your body generates hydrochloric acid in your stomach. It does it by pumping chloride ions, which it gets from salt, across the membrane into your stomach. The more chloride ions that there are in your stomach, the more acidic your stomach is, the more hydrochloric acid there is. And so getting your salt level exactly right in terms of that is important. So that's been great. That's been a real revelation. In terms of function regularity, near perfect, once a day, every day if I'm eating once a day, and every other day if I'm eating every other day, because obviously if you don't eat, you don't need to shit. Why would you?
Unless you're on juice fast, because trust me, you'll be shitting every day.
Yeah, that's it. Because that's all. There's almost nothing in there that you can use. All the fiber comes out pretty much untouched. So that's basically just a sugar diet, and
it is
just
it's very catabolic as well, which is interesting. That's the other thing too. Is like again going back to the studying that I've been doing about insulin. Insulin must be at baseline to burn body fat. I don't know if I believe that. I know that there's science to back that up, but again, we can look at top level athletes across the board who are ripped to the bone. These people are consuming carbohydrates 4, 5, 6 meals a day. Okay.
It's not just about the one hormone though, Drew. It's about the balance between them. And if an athlete has got a situation going on where the balance tends toward being able to switch between catabolism and anabolism effectively, then that's what will be happening.
Regardless of insulin. So insulin could be
within limits. I mean, okay, if there's enough insulin released into the bloodstream, that will halt the burning of fat, and that will switch on the storage of fat, at least while the insulin is elevated.
Okay.
If that athlete is insulin sensitive and is able to reduce their insulin concentration quickly, then they can switch that fat storage off much more rapidly than if that athlete is a bit sluggish in terms of their insulin response, in which case it's going to take them longer and they're going to stay in fat storage mode, which is also chronic inflammation mode, by the way, necessarily so, for longer. And being inflamed for longer is contraindicated for human beings, be they athletes or not. So
that makes sense. I mean, if you could throw down a realistic timeline, what do you think? Because I've heard numbers thrown out like, again, we're going back to these mean averages as if they apply to everybody, but they don't. I mean, it's like, but a lot of people report basically, let's say 4 hours as a guideline to eating a meal, insulin goes up, insulin goes down. About 4 hours later, you can start to burn body fat again. Would you say that's that's accurate, or would you say a highly tuned athlete that has a 6% body fat year round that eats 3,000 calories a day, a bunch of carbs, but is still ripped? Like, how does that work? Because they're obviously coming down much faster, right?
Exactly. That athlete is switching backwards and forwards much more effectively at this time.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll tell you what, as that athlete ages, as that athlete continues to abuse their body in that way, their insulin sensitivity will suffer. They are
Fair
a
enough.
sitting duck.
Yeah.
That person will end up with metabolic disorders. That person will end up, when they finish being an athlete, very quickly putting on a lot of weight and becoming very unwell, mostly. The whole idea that you can say, on average 4 hours, great, that's an average, but it's exactly the same argument as the GI argument earlier. The variability around that, both between people and within the same person measured across time, the noise is so big that the signal is worthless. The 4 hour average is just not, it's a nonsense. It means nothing. I might be, I am very insulin sensitive right now because for the last 29 days, I've consumed no carbohydrates to speak of at all.
Right.
The only carbohydrate that's been in my diet is that which is already in the meat that I've been eating.
Yep. That makes sense. I mean,
so therefore
you've reset the system.
Exactly.
And not to mention, you've been basically fasting. OMAD is fasting, in my opinion. Every other day is certainly fasting. So you're going to, even if you were eating carbohydrate with that singular meal, you would still be probably extremely insulin sensitive because of the fasting. You're doubling up on that process.
Yeah. And add to that, I'm training reasonably heavily for upper body strength.
Yeah.
And I'm about to get into lower body a bit more than I have been as well. I've been doing a lot of high intensity burst and repeat type work. I'm training for an event that I'm going to undertake before the end of this year, where I'm going to walk 100 kilometers, which is about 60 miles. I'm going to do that within a 24-hour period. And I'm going to do that carrying 40 pounds on my back the whole way. I'm also going to do that on day 7 of a 7-day fast.
That's badass. How do you feel about dry fasting, by the way? Have you ever looked into this?
Yeah, I did a bit of that last week. In fact, we did a 5-day fast. I did 3 days or 2.5 days each, wet and dry. So wet first and then dry.
Please tell us more about the dry fasting. I'm extremely curious about this.
It's awesome. If you want to expedite the rate at which you get the benefits of fasting, including it melts fat off you much more rapidly, it gets autophagy going much more fully, much more effectively. The rebound mTOR response is better. The only thing I would say about it is I really do recommend that if you're going to undertake any amount of dry fasting, especially the first couple of times that you do it, you really want to be locked in with someone like myself who can guide you through it, who can coach you through it, who's been through it, who knows what is going on, and who knows the warning signs if there are any problems, because problems can occur on dry fasting. And I just think completely untrained individuals who may be very popular online and may have large followings, who may be from Canada, for example, and who may have catchphrases like, "Hey, fatty, stop eating," that kind of people. I just think what they're doing is a bit dangerous, frankly, just telling people, just go and do it. It's perfectly safe. It's perfectly fine. There's nothing to worry about. I disagree. I think you need to be locked in with somebody.
I want to share a little bit about that person that you're talking about, and I'll name them by name. I don't have an issue with that. Snake Diet guy, Cole. I've watched nearly all of his videos. I think his content is, first of all, it's hilarious, and it's kind of addictive, actually.
Funny as hell. Yeah, I love it. It's funny. Yeah.
And so when I started to get my groove back on, getting back into the fasting and all this stuff again, this health space again on social media, let's say, a few months ago, that's what got me into the walking. That's what got me into all this stuff. And so I wrote him, actually, and I said, hey, because he agreed to come on the show about over a year ago. And I just wrote, and of course he didn't remember that I said this to him, but I was like, hey, what's going on? I kind of asked him a few specifics about what was going on metabolically. And I just wanted he could have ignored it, or he could have given me an answer or whatever. I would have been fine with it. But without, it's almost like he didn't even listen to what I said. And he's like, if you want my help, and again, guys, I'm not saying this to sandbag the guy, but as you said, a bit of it may be dangerous. He said, he goes, if you want my help, you'll need to send me pictures, sideways and front, from the side and from the front, basically in your underwear, like how he posts people online, and then I'll help you out. And I was like, okay, like that's interesting, because I wasn't asking for anything related to fasting. Or sorry, I wasn't asking him about anything related to his coaching. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And so I took the pictures. And I sent them over to him, and I said, okay, like, now are you going to answer my question? And he goes, okay. What I recommend for you is straight into a 3-day water fast. You could do snake juice if you want. You could buy it on the store, or you can make it yourself. Blah blah blah, and then basically get back to me. And I was like, it's a little weird. Like, first of all, I wasn't here for coaching. I wasn't here for fasting. I was asking you specifics about metabolic stuff, almost like as if we were sitting here having a discussion.
Yeah.
But he just threw me right into a 3-day water fast. Doesn't know anything else about me. Didn't answer my question. I was like, that's weird. You know what I mean? And
he didn't even read your message, Drew, is what it was.
No. Yeah. And so you figure imagine how many people are hitting him up for this information every single day. And he just throws all these people on water fast. Obviously, people are going to get good results over a week or 2 weeks of time. Nobody denies that water fasting is good for cutting weight. Nobody denies that dry fasting is good for cutting weight. You're going to lose weight. It's going to make people look much better. But to just apply it to every single person without even really talking to them at all, like not even a consultation first, nothing, like 3-day water fast, boom. See you Monday, like, I don't know about that. That's a little bit weird.
No, Cole. No,
yeah.
son.
I felt
also, I
contacted
him. I contacted him a couple of years ago and said, did he want to come on my program, and did he want to do an interview and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And he just basically, his response was, how much fasting have you done?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, some, but actually that's not the point. The point is, at the time, our channels were roughly the same size.
Mm-hmm.
And I was giving him an opportunity to make himself more widely known to my people.
Right.
As it turns out, his channel is now much bigger than mine, but then there will be reasons behind that to do with the way he presents himself, to do with he clearly hasn't had the interference run against him on his channel that, for example, I have on mine, that Tristan has on his, absolutely. But I'm quite sure, Drew, you probably would too. Once you get to a certain level, they start fucking around with it, basically, for want of a better term.
I'm a good boy on my channel. I keep these streams monetized. I don't know how, but I do it. I don't know how we do that, but
well, of course, they don't run interference necessarily by directly going straight to demonetizing you overtly. They demonetize you stepwise, a bitwise. They strangle you to death slowly. They drain your pool of subscribers by unsubscribing people. They limit the number of nodes for a live stream. They limit the amount of people that can show up to a live stream. Others will be trying to log in and can't get in, and they just get buffering sort of thing. They will downgrade all your stuff on their algorithms and make sure that your stuff doesn't see the light of day. They won't push it out to people who aren't subscribed to you. They don't suggest, this the whole carry on. And he hasn't had that problem. And I don't know why, because actually what he's been saying is much more offensive than anything I've ever said, frankly, in terms of his language and stuff. And actually, what I say is backed with some good science, and I'm actually qualified and competent as a clinician, and he is not. You could call it sour grapes if you like. It's not. I've got nothing against the guy personally. I think he's rude, frankly, and I think that's his thing. That's the way he's decided to present himself, and that it works for him as a marketing ploy. But when a fellow creator connects with you and says, "Do you want to do an interview? Do you want to get together?" Don't treat them like someone who's asking you for your advice. We're fucking not.
Right. It's anyway, a bit, I agree. There's a mutual respect there when somebody hits you up. And I've always said this, like, I don't know if you feel this way, but if, let's say, some vegan you had disagreements with decided to come on your show and you had a relatively coherent, pleasant conversation back and forth, you'd probably have a little more respect for them, right? Like,
Sure.
I have respect for anybody who's willing to come on the show and have a real conversation.
Yep.
Whatever they're like, we've had Raw Bliss on the channel. I don't agree with the way he eats. I don't agree with any of that stuff. But like, I'm not going to sit there and trash the guy. Sure, the donation thing has him doing push-ups, which is funny. And if you ever want to be taken off,
help, he doesn't need any help trashing himself. He's already trashing himself. Just look at the picture. Yeah. God. Anyway, that's another day. And I know he was here earlier. If he's still here, hi. I'm not bagging on you, but I'm just telling you a fact. You're destroying your health.
Yeah, and
permanently.
But yeah,
probably.
I felt like it was fair to say what my experience was with Cole, in that respect, and it really did turn me off in that moment. I was like, first of all, I'm not doing a fast. I'm not just dropping everything today and doing a fast. Like you're out of your mind. And I didn't even bother contacting him again. I mean, I didn't write another word to him. I just felt like that was a little bit odd. And when I really look at his content, and I'd love to have him on here someday explaining himself perhaps, but when I look at his content, I see him spinning his wheels a lot because sure, he's strong. I think he's very strong. He does change his methodology every few months. If you actually go back 2 years and you listen to what he says now versus then, it's very different to what he prescribes to people and what he prescribes to himself. He used to be a huge believer in the 5 to 7 day water fast, and then it became the slightly shorter dry fast, 3 to 5 day dry fast. And then now he's like, I don't prescribe more than 3 days of fasting for anybody for any reason. Like 3 days is the max you need. And actually that has some bearing in science because you got guys like Jason Fung saying the exact same thing. They're like, we don't see any clinical benefits past 5 days. And really it's more like 3 days. And that's probably the sweet spot. And now Cole's saying the exact same thing. I'm not saying he stole the information from Jason or whatever. I'm just saying everybody's kind of softened a little bit on the amount of, go do a 40-day water fast. Like it's a bit extreme. You don't need to do that to get the same exact benefits. And when I do look at Cole's physique and the way that it changes throughout the year, he's very strong and he does a lot of fasting. So he's putting in the work. He's doing like 4 to 5 hours of activity per day. In my mind, he should look like a top level athlete. He should be ripped to the bone. He should be very strong because the amount of effort he's putting into it is such that people who are doing that are sort of just regular athletes, I guess, who are eating carbs, who are eating 5 meals a day, they have more performance than he does. That's just a fact. You could make the argument that he's healthier. His C-reactive protein levels are very low. Okay, fine. But when you look at the physique and what he does to starve himself to the bone, and then he blows back up. He blows back up by eating massive OMAD days. Like that guy can eat like nobody else. He can eat 5,000 meals in one sitting on OMAD. I could never do that. He could actually put on body fat rapidly on OMAD. That's very unique. Not many people can do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he still goes and he puts on body fat and then he has to trim it off with 3 days of fasting. And then he goes and puts on body fat and then he trims it down. See, I don't get that. Why not just eat a normal amount each day, not put on all that body fat, and then not do the extreme fasting? Why this massive spiking back and forth? I don't get that.
Yeah. Agreed.
Like if fasting is so amazing, and you think it should be part of your monthly routine or bi-weekly routine, how about you just eat a little bit less per day and not go through those massive extremes? I don't see that as being healthy either. And when you actually do look at him from the side, I do see an enlarged gut. I do. That's what I notice. And I see the same thing with vegans because they're eating massive quantities in one go to just get normal amounts of calories because the vegan diet is so deplete of calories and energy that these people are eating 3 times a day, stuffing their guts full. And where Cole maybe is only eating 1 meal a day, stuffing himself. But still, it provides the same long-term effect on that distended gut. I don't know if you've noticed the same thing, but...
exactly. Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. So, guys, I really want you to... we don't have Bart for much longer here. I want you guys to... Bart, let me know anytime that, if you're okay sitting through. Sure. I think it's earlier in the morning there. It's what, 10 or 11 a.m.?
It's just before 11 in the morning.
So if anybody has any questions for Bart, get him out there. Let's get him to answer some things for you. I haven't been paying attention to the chat. I'm so sorry.
I've still got an hour anyway. If we need an hour, but I don't
okay.
think we'll need that long. But if we do, I've got it.
We'll probably have you out in about 25 minutes or so, if that's cool with you, and then I'll probably close up the stream after that. And I know my voice is going to be done.
All right.
After that, my voice is shredded.
Carnivore Yogi's in the house. Good to see you, Sarah. And she was just saying that she too has experienced the YouTube fuckery.
Interesting.
We're not making this up, guys. You have to be in the know as a YouTube creator at a certain level, and it's as clear as dog's balls when they start fucking with your channel. They do it in a way that is not overt. They do it subvertly. They do it clandestine, but they destroy your channel in one fell swoop by pushing a button. Bam.
I feel like with YouTube, there's certain things that they love to push forth. People like the clickbaity 10-minute videos or 6-minute videos with the flashy thumbnail, and that's what gets you the views, and that's what keeps you blasting forward in the algorithm. Some people are masters at this. You've been putting out content at the same rate as, like, let's say a health coach, Kate, who, when we first started YouTube, her channel was the same size as mine. We all actually started around the same time, and I was about 5,000 when she had 5,000 and whatever, right? Yeah. She's at 100K now, 100,000 subscribers. I mean, she's a full-blown YouTuber now, Yeah. And but she mastered that little piece of the algorithm. We're giving similar messages, but the live streams, they are not pushed out in the recommended videos the way that those other type of videos are. Because
being attractive is helpful too.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Let's be honest.
Let's be honest. Yeah.
If you're not too hard to look at, that helps.
Agreed.
So I'm up against it there a bit. No, I'm up against it, I'm afraid, in that regard. So I have to know what I'm talking about instead and shit.
Oh yeah. Well, Durian Ryder's made it pretty far. He's not the best looking guy. He has no idea what he's talking about, and yet he's still, he's still way up there. He was pre-algorithm though.
I'm not suggesting for a second that Kate doesn't know what she's talking about and that she's nothing but a pretty face. I'm not saying that at all.
I know.
She does
I
know
love
what she's
Kate.
talking about. Yeah, she's great.
Somebody said, question for you, Drew. We'll get to that after. I guess we'll have Bart here for this one. Bart, did you know that I did a 30-day juice fast, by the way?
I think it's in my mind that there was something that you might have done at some point. Yeah.
It was 4 years ago. 4 years ago I did this. Right. And I made videos about it actually back then. This was like, before I had any substantial viewer base or anything like that. But the guy said, what exactly happened in your 30-day orange juice experiment? You said something came out and your digestion afterwards was better. Can you elaborate? My digestion afterwards was not better. My digestion afterwards and during were all terrible. The only thing was that my stomach was very flat because there was absolutely no fiber in there. So that's when I started learning the relationship between fiber and your colon being full of stuff. And I only got to revisit that when I went back to Carnivore. And that's not just like a sales pitch to say, oh, go back to eating meat, although there's a million good reasons for that. But that feeling I got on the juice fast with an empty colon was the same feeling I got as a carnivore for 40 days carnivore. And I'm sure, Bart, you can attest to that. That nice flat stomach that goes right into your pelvis, that's a nice feeling. There's nothing there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm getting to the point now where my dad bod bloat from the small amount of plant material that I was reacting to is now, the inflammation is nearly resolved. It's starting to look like it should look. I'm starting to look like, the shape that I want to a little bit. Obviously I need to get some training happening to get it fine tuned, but yeah, it's great. Fiber is not your friend. Fiber will destroy your gut function. Fiber will give you bloat. Fiber will mess you up for sure.
Bart, I do say that a little bit of fiber should. Here's my take on the fiber carbohydrate situation. If you're going to consume processed carbohydrate, you do need to offset it with some fiber. Again, that's if you're eating carbs, processed carbs at that. I do think you should eat some fibrous plant material to help sort of bind it all together and get it out of you, because if you don't, and you're just eating like the constipation type foods, let's say dairy, all these other, even meat can produce very little amounts of stool to begin with. So if you're eating processed carbs with that and no fiber with it, you're creating clumps back there, and it's hard to get it out. I will say that straight up, and that's consistent, you know.
All right. Of course, my advice would be don't eat those carbs in the first place, and then you don't need the fiber. Well,
they would.
I'm also not convinced that adding fiber is a good idea. I think it just adds another problem on top of the original problem myself. But that's how I found it in my situation anyway.
Fair enough.
Do I still have the same viewpoint on calorie counting being pointless and useless? Yes, I do. Calorie counting is pointless and useless. Yeah,
I also agree with that. It is very useless. Going back to what I was saying earlier, I was stuffing myself for 2 meals a day, milk, everything I can get into my system, 2 meals a day, well over 2,500 calories for both those meals, not gaining any weight. And as soon as I went to eating 4 or 5 meals a day, much smaller meals, probably about the same amount of calories overall, the weight started to go up. So there is a factor of manipulating and abusing your hormones a little bit to get that result. But meal frequency, I think, is very underrated in terms of what it means to gain and lose weight. I think we don't have a good enough. People don't know about that in general in the general public.
Yeah, and even people with PhDs like Lane Norton, who would make ridiculous videos suggesting that a calorie is a calorie. No, it isn't, Lane.
No,
wrong.
No.
And then also, when I challenge someone like Lane Norton for a debate on the subject, an academic debate on the subject, knowing that he is an academic, you know, a proper professional discussion on it, he then turns around and says, "Why would I talk to you? Where's your publication record?" To which I send it to him and say, "Well,
you have
go,
one.
Lane. It's of course I do." You know, and I send it to him and say, well, there it is. There's my publication record over 20 years as a scientist. There, Lane, it's actually better than yours. So your whole, I'm not going to talk to you because you don't have a publication record, doesn't work, does it, Lane? And I haven't heard back. So basically, Lane Norton, not only are you an arrogant buffoon, but you're also a coward. Come and talk to me about your ridiculous ideas that a calorie is a calorie, because it's not. Okay, good. Gelgamek, I heard that no fiber can cause gallstones because fiber absorbs toxic bile. No fiber and the toxic bile will resorb. Is there any truth to that? No. What do you mean toxic bile? Why would your body produce something that is toxic? Your body is about removing toxins, which it does very effectively in the liver. Actually, the liver is the main organ involved in detoxing things that are toxic. Bile is not toxic. So what an absolute load of nonsense. Goodness me. People will say anything, won't they, to support their ideology? Good,
well, I think there's a lot of people who promote different, you know, meat fasting and intermittent fasting ideologies and drink this lemon water and drink this concoction to burn the gallstones out and all this other stuff. That there's so much going on with that. I just don't know why people refuse to keep it simple and remove the bad stuff, add more of the good stuff, maybe eat less meals per day if you're overweight. I mean, it's like, give it a little bit of time to work itself out too, but you should see positive results going in that direction pretty much right away.
And let's not overcomplicate it. Let's not also dilute the message. Let's not go off on the wrong track. Let's keep this simple. The good stuff is animal flesh and associated animal fat. The bad stuff is plants and anything derived from plants. All of it. There are no good things to eat that are plant-based. No, Paul Saladino. Wrong. Bad message. Bad
Honey
boy.
isn't plant-based.
Honey is also sugar, and sugar is contraindicated. So you could also say that honey is plant-based because it's actually just sugar that has been collected from plants by animals with a little bit of added stuff that the bee puts in there, that some acids, some proteins variously, some preservatives, those kind of things that the bee adds to it. But to all intents and purposes, honey is sugar. And honey is actually about 7 times as glycating, which we spoke about earlier, glycation. Honey is about 7 times as glycating as table sugar is.
Yes. Bart, you're scaring me now because that's what I'm putting in my honey.
If you want to eat
coffee.
100 grams of honey every day and you say you're going to feel better on that, well, congratulations, son. You feel better in the meantime until that glycation catches up with you, Paul, and then you won't feel so good anymore. It's a mistake and you're wrong, and you've got to stop telling people online that eating honey is okay. It isn't. Okay? Let's get this clear.
I'm abusing the honey on purpose, Bart, for now, for the set end goal, as we've discussed earlier.
Well, you've heard my take on it.
Yeah.
No honey.
Fair
Okay,
enough.
it's up to you though. I mean, yeah, if you want to eat honey, you fill your boots up. It's not going to change the facts on honey or
Oh no.
or my life actually.
Tony
would
says
like you to be around for longer. Go on.
Sorry, just reading the chat here. Tony said that he believes that just like we said in the past, that the healthiest human being is the one that can stomach all food groups without any issues. Are you still in that boat? I think I can answer this for Bart. He doesn't agree with that because
No, I don't. I think that question was probably for you, though, wasn't it, Drew?
It is. But I think the discussion here is still valid. I mean,
yeah,
I feel like humans throughout nature, and you know, when you were on my live stream harassing me last week, Bart, because I had the Coca-Cola in my hand, which by all means harass somebody with a Coca-Cola in their hands, because that's
a bit of fun, Drew.
I'm not going to say that that's healthy, guys. All right, give me a break. But I did say, okay, we're hunter-gatherers. You know, we're hungry. We just kill a freaking squirrel. We get a little meat in our belly, and we come across an apple tree. You're telling me you're not going to eat the apple from the apple tree? I think you're going to eat as many apples as you can comfortably stomach at that point. You know, and probably take a couple for the road. I'm not going to say you're going to make meals out of it like vegans would try and do. I'm just saying it would be something you would snack on, or, you know,
you
have
also
if it
need
was
to
available.
Understand, Drew, that apples are nothing like what apples were like back then, because apples have been selectively bred by humans.
Okay, blueberries.
Well, same deal, actually.
Wild blueberries are sugary and delicious.
Yeah. But they're also available probably less than 1 week every year.
Okay,
naturally.
Fair enough. But that 1 week a year, Bart, that 1 week a year, you would say you would eat the blueberries.
Possibly, as an ancestrally living person at that time, I may have done. Yeah.
Yes. That's my point. So this person saying, you know, should you be able to eat that food group? Yeah, I believe yes. I believe that your body should be very robust and very strong, and you should be able to eat and consume these foods. Now, people think I'm a weirdo because I don't want to eat any food with any kind of hot spiciness to it. And I just proved the point yesterday by eating a big bowl of chili with cayenne pepper, and it was a disaster today at the toilet. And they think that your stomach's so sensitive, Drew. You know, you're such a sensitive, weak person. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't believe them when they say that they go to the bathroom without any issue there. Let me see the toilet paper. Prove it to me, you know, because I don't believe it. You always hear about people talking about how, when they eat spicy Indian food, they got IBS symptoms and all this stuff. I think that's a very normal reaction to foods you shouldn't have in your body, namely spicy hot peppers.
Yeah. The reason they're spicy and hot is so that you know that you're eating something that is in fact poisonous.
It's correct. That's correct.
It is a poison. It is a toxin. That's why your body's reacting to it that way.
That's right. If it's burning your mouth, it's got to be burning.
That's a message for you.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, this is good. Yum, yum, yum. No.
And it's funny how we become so interested in these foods. How do we become addicted to spicy food? You know, those people that are just like, oh, they're sweating and they just love eating the spiciest food possible. Like, what the hell are you doing? Why would you put yourself through that process to get to that point? It's almost like they're in too deep, or they're just like, they're known as the guy who eats a lot of spice and they want to be that person. It's some mental thing going along with that.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. My take on it is, yes, I agree, Drew, that people should be fit and strong and robust and healthy. And
Yep.
I think the best way to achieve that for the largest number of people is for people to live a dietary lifestyle which is indicated for them by their genes, their organ systems, their heritage, and as supported by the science, for example, the N14, N15 isotope testing that tells us what human beings have eaten for our 350,000 year odyssey as a species on this planet. And that is almost entirely nothing but the flesh and associated fat of animals, largely the ruminants.
Bart, I have done some research on this.
It's a species-specific niche. Okay, like every other creature under the sun, we have a niche. And our niche is obligate hypercarnivore.
I do agree with this. I see. I am in agreement with that. So I don't want anybody to get this confused here. I am in agreement with that. What I will say is, I think we should be able to handle some plant food if the rest of our body is. Let's say you're Mr. Hypercarnivore for a full year. You're so healthy. You got the perfect digestion, perfect everything, right? Your body should be strong enough at that point to be able to handle some plants in not in abundance, but some plants without having some adverse reaction. Now, if you were to have those plant-based meals or meals with a bunch of plants in them for weeks and weeks and weeks and lowered your health at that point, then you would start to react to those plants. That makes sense to me, right? Mm-hmm. That makes sense to me. But you're weakening yourself by having more of these plant foods, not making yourself stronger. You should still be able to handle them though in some quantity, right? I know when I go overboard on these foods, and it's never an animal-based food that sends me overboard. It's always a plant-based food.
Yeah.
So like I said, my meal yesterday, cayenne pepper, a bunch of chili beans, you know? Mm. Yeah, there was meat in that meal. Do you think it was the ground beef that was in there that was cooked into that bowl of chili? Or do you think it was the freaking spices and all the beans that were in there? Like, come on, you know? And that meal was over the top. It wasn't asparagus on the side with my steak. It wasn't onion on the side with my steak. It was an entire bowl of chili, you know?
Of course, there are some plant materials which are going to be over the top and are going to cause a large proportion of people a problem, and immediately in any amount. There are some plants that are absolutely, utterly, completely contraindicated and should never, ever pass human lips. Sure.
What are we talking here?
Well, wheat.
Okay.
Would be one, or any wheat derivative.
How do you feel about peanuts and other
peanuts? Peanuts is that one's only risky for a certain percentage of a population on the basis of an allergic thing, really. Soy,
I'm talking digestion.
That's a bad idea.
Soy,
straight away. Any seed oils, omega-6 oils, any of those. Olive oil, contraindicated completely.
That would be against a couple popular beliefs of Ben Bickman says we can eat olive oil.
Yep. I disagree.
That's interesting. I agree with you. I'm actually more in agreement against the against the plant-based oils in general. I don't see where we would have gotten a large quantity of olive oil in our system.
Deadly nightshades, cruciferous veggies.
Yeah, those are all shit.
And really, the only plant material which is even remotely acceptable for human consumption at all would be a few seasonal berries, natural ones, not selectively bred ones that are high in sugar and lower in fiber even. That's really about it. No leaves, no shoots, no root materials.
You don't think we were eating tubers?
We were, but that doesn't mean we should be.
Okay. It's like one of those things where would we have found those in large quantities without farming them? Like you would have came across like a couple of mushrooms, a couple of tubers.
Yeah.
It's like every other mushroom is deadly anyways. Like imagine how, like we probably weren't messing around with these things too much.
Yeah.
In terms of like overall caloric needs. And actually, our buddy Paul Saladino did an interview a couple of weeks ago with this dude who goes down to goes to Africa once a year, and he goes and he visits this tribe every year, the Hadza tribe, and they go through this whole thing talking about him. And he's like, yeah, we were like nomadic basically for months, and we would eat like maybe once or twice a day, but the animal food was the prized food. And he barely spoke about any plants that they consumed. I mean, I think they literally ate like zero plant food, and overall very healthy tribe.
Alien Ed says humans have eaten wheat for thousands of years, and Alien Ed is quite right. Humans have eaten wheat for thousands of years, and it has fucked us up for thousands of years.
Yep.
It is totally, utterly contraindicated as a food for human beings. It is one of the worst things you can put in your mouth as a human being for your health.
Didn't
for
Weston
so many
Price?
reasons I don't have time to cover today, but there you go.
Weston Price did come across some like northern Swedes or something like that that ate bread as a staple of their diet, and they had really amazing dental health and other facial structure and stuff like that. Would you say that makes sense for that? Like if we're talking very unprocessed breads, that makes sense, right? Like that could be healthy.
It depends. I mean, someone's health presentation is, or any group of people's health presentation is going to be the balance of positive and negative influences. And I do not believe wheat to be a positive influence in any way, shape, or form for human health. That doesn't mean that people cannot express good health because maybe wheat is their only foible. Maybe it's the only thing that they've got wrong. And maybe the particular form in which they're taking it is a particular one which is less damaging than some of the modern wheat crops and some of the processing that goes through that make it even worse. There you go. It's a rich tapestry. Do I think some herbs can be medicinal in the right dose? Yes, absolutely. There are some herbs that can be used for medicinal purpose. Yeah, of course.
Well, let's see here. Let's see. Frank Tufano, another interesting person on the internet. What do you think about him leaving Carnivore, Bart? Have you heard anything about that?
It doesn't surprise me. I haven't really followed anything that Frank's had to say for several years now, really, because he just completely lost the plot entirely, went completely off the rails, went his own way, did his own thing.
Yeah,
don't know.
pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I think this is a good time to say farewell to our Sir Field Marshal Lord Bart, Dr. Bart Kay, nutritionist and physiologist. And guys, make sure you check out Bart's link there that he has. It's going to pertain to his. Maybe you should tell us a little bit about the supplement.
Yeah, I will actually. Before I go, Drew, it's a really good idea. This is a supplement which is indicated, worthwhile, and valuable for every human being on the planet. You should be on this product. It's called Stem Enhance Ultra. It is a proprietary blend of an extract, largely of a blue-green cyanobacteria called AFA, which grows in this one particular lake that happens to be Upper Klamath Lake.
And here comes a real steak. But just look at the texture of this thing.
Hang on 1 second, Bart. We got a super chat coming through. Sorry. Okay, go ahead. Continue.
The company that I'm joint ventured with that produces this product is the only company in the world with the proprietary means to extract, concentrate, and activate this particular product to do what it does in the body. When you consume 2 capsules of the Stem Enhance Ultra, it causes your bone marrow to release your adult stem cells from the bone marrow to your blood. And when they are released to your blood, they float around in your blood until they find tissues in need of renewal or repair, and they renew and repair it, basically. Incredible product. For people that haven't been around my channel, I've done a good half a dozen or even more videos about this product specifically on my channel. Most of them are around about 10 minutes in length. They're not great big long things. There are 1 or 2 interviews there with some people that know a lot about it that are a bit longer than that if you want to check it out. Basically, what I'm telling you is that this product is absolutely incredible in terms of some of the anecdotes associated with people that take this product and have done for, in some cases, more than 16 years, actually. I'm one of those. I've been taking the product for 10 years myself, and it has changed my life entirely, which I'm not just saying because I'm going to get paid to say that, because I don't actually get paid to say that. I only get paid if you go and check out that link and order some, because it's incredible. And if you want to know more about it, as I say, videos are all on my channel. There are also videos on the company website that are not made by me, but made by the company if you're into more corporate style things.
How often do you take them?
I take them daily, every single day.
Okay, fair enough. It sounds like the same, not the same blue green algae that the vegans are taking, right, Bart?
It's not the same stuff. This product is referred to as algae, and it's called algae even by the company that make it. I really wish they'd stop doing that, because it fucking isn't algae. It's a blue-green cyanobacteria that grows in string-like formations that look like algae in the lake that it grows in, but it's not algae. It's not a plant of any kind. It is bacteria. And the company won't allow, well, it's the FDA actually in the States that won't allow this company to make any therapeutic claims around the product, which I understand the reasons for. But if you want some anecdotes, there are some fantastic anecdotes from people who have had life-changing results through or associated with taking this particular supplement. I can give you mine just very briefly. 10 years ago, I was told by the top eye specialist in New Zealand that I could expect to be legally blind within 5 years from that point in time, i.e. about 5 years ago. I was told I had the worst case of advanced macular degeneration he'd ever seen in a man my age at that time, which was 39 at that time. He said, there's nothing we can do about it. There's nothing known to medical science that will have any impact. You will go blind, no two ways about it. We could slow it down a little bit, but that's
I'm Joe Rogan too.
Suck it up.
You're Joe Rogan.
Anyway, long story short, my prescription is better than it was 10 years ago.
We're all Joe Rogan,
better than it was 10 years ago. I'm not blind. There you go. Interesting.
Will it help your eye vision, your eyesight? And
I'm not allowed to say that.
Yeah, what's that?
I'm not allowed to say it caused my eyesight to heal.
Okay.
I'm only allowed to say my impossible healing of my eyesight that I was told by the top medical expert in his field on eyes 10 years ago was impossible, has occurred.
Okay. All right. The impossible has occurred. And hey, guys, if you're interested, go check it out. You heard it there. And they've got more information on Bart's actual channel, which I'll link in the description below this video once this whole thing goes on the actual channel. So, Bart, awesome. Once again, thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for reaching out to me and making this happen. And right. We'll have to do it again soon.
My pleasure. Let's do it again soon.
Take it easy, buddy. Bye. Alrighty, guys. Bart Kay. Once again, thank you for Bart. And thank you guys for these late coming super chats. I was trying to mess with the volume there. It was I didn't want to turn off the video because I know when you pay that €10, that £10 for the video, you want to see that thing pop up. I know you do. Marcus, thanks again, man. €2 coming through. And the Bart good stuff. Thanks for the love there, man. And Vitalius, thank you for this interview. Yeah, my pleasure, man. Bart is a wealth of knowledge and somebody who has some deeper level knowledge of a lot of this stuff, which I think people gloss over. And in the world of today, social media, whatever, it's like you don't need to have any type of credentials to be the most trusted source. And not like I have any credentials or anything like that, but at least I preface it with that. I let you guys know that I've experimented with this. This is my results. This is my experimentation. I'm very open about that when it comes to the diet stuff. And I feel like that's fair, you know? You could trust me, and all I can do is be honest. That's it. Wow, so much chat, guys. I can't scroll up and read everything, but let me know if you got any follow up questions that I didn't get to during this thing. I see you guys having lots of battles and wars in there. I recommend the open format mods. I know there's a couple mods in here, and I hope you guys let the creatures in the chat breathe. That let them say let them get the toxic poisoning out of themselves. They're going to need to do that. And sometimes they have some decent insight. I think somebody said I had black eye circles under my eyes. Did I catch that right? Hey, Luke says, thank you both, Drew and Bart. Appreciate that. And yes, Marcus, I agree. Marcus, I agree. Self-experimentation is awesome, and so are anecdotes. They are important. Anecdotes are important. I'm glad you like the alerts, Tony. Let's get down to the digestion. Okay, Tony wants to go deep in the digestion. All right, what do you want to know, man? I'll let you know. I'll let you know what I know. Digestion. You need fiber if you're eating processed carbs. Number 1. Number 2, pasteurized dairy is going to constipate you. Eat more fiber to counterbalance that. Number 3, don't eat spices that mess with your gut. You will know after you eat them because you're going to have a burning / tickling gassy sensation the next day in your colon. Number 4, I don't know. There's a lot more to know though. Let me know. Let me know what you want. Still bloating on 0 fiber, 0 carbs. I don't eat 0 fiber or 0 carbs. I never have. Only as an experiment for 40 days after I had stopped being vegan. I never been 0 fiber, 0 carbs, or claim to be. But I will tell you there is much less bloating from that way of eating for a fact. You want zero bloating, go eat 100% carnivore. You'll have zero bloating. Hey, have a good night, Tristan or Marcus. He's in the Euro time zone. Yeah, somebody was talking about the dark circle. So, anyways, this light in my room right above me to the right, that's like facing me, went out. So I have this here. I'm going to show you guys. I have this light behind my monitor as a supplement, but it died midstream. Oh, it's working now. Here. See? That's how my face looks with direct light. I'm not sensitive about these things. In fact, I'd rather know. But can you shit on 100% carnivore? I only went poop like every 3 days. Just keeping it real. Tony is asking, sticky poop, smelly poop, what diet are you on? There's people on 100% carnivore and still have bloating. I don't know what's up with that. They must have some kind of crazy bile deficiency or something like that. What I would guess is they're either drinking too much liquid around their mealtime, so their body isn't able to actually use enough acid to digest their food. That's probably the first thing that I would attack. Second thing is, depending on how much bile production they have, they are, if they were vegan for a really long period of time. I know Megan Elizabeth had issues with that. So those are probably 2 things to start sorting out right there. But I don't have bloating. I never had bloating. Even after 4.5 years of being a vegan, I went straight to carnivore, 0 bloating. Yeah, you don't go to the bathroom very often. Maybe 2 or 3 times a week. So dark. Thank you for the love. Oh, see, that light just went out again. There you go. There's the dark circles because the light went out. It's out of batteries. Let's see here. Nick was talking about checking out Bart's product. Yeah, go check it out. There's barely anything to form or poop on carnivore. That's what I was trying to explain to people all along. Like if you eat, let's say you eat 8 ounces of meat and your body just dissolves it almost entirely, right? There's nothing that's going to come out. So there's not going to be a whole lot of buildup to actually leave. So you don't really need to go to the bathroom all that often. Tony, not a problem, man. I will answer you as honestly and as often as I can, as long as I can get to these questions. Like you said, you're saying that I know it's a weird thing to talk about digestion and the excavation process on the internet here, but I think it's very important, and I think it tells a huge story about how much absorption you're actually getting in your body. So here's my scale here. If you're constipated, you're over absorbing. If you're either diarrhea would be the worst case scenario, or like loose, soft stool, sticky, a lot of wiping, that's under absorption. So you're doing something to irritate your gut at that point, which is causing an issue on the end of your intestines. Like your colon is not able to absorb all that liquid, and so it's getting rid of it. It wants to get it out of your body. Too much mucus, too soft, whatever. It's not good. You want to focus on more absorption at that point. And for those people, I recommend yogurt. Have some yogurt every single day, some Greek yogurt. Honest is back. Good to see you. Hubby came home with quarter Iberico pork. Oh, a quarter of pork. Okay, yeah. You had the big ol' hunk. Very nice. Put it in the freezer. I actually just froze a steak for the first time the other day, and I took it out of the freezer, and I was kind of like, I've always been weird about freezing my meats. And then I actually let it thaw all day, made steak with it, made dinner with it that night. It was perfect. I actually could not tell that I had frozen it. Tristan asks, alcohol? What do you mean alcohol? What about the alcohol? I drink sometimes. Tony asks, what am I eating nowadays? All right, I'll give you an example of what I'm eating. This is the first time I've kind of gone over this in recent times. So, morning I wake up, coffee, butter, honey. That's 8 a.m., whatever. 10 to 10:30, I have breakfast. 4 eggs, some cheese, maybe a little bit of meat. I usually do lower fat meats at this point, so I'm not going to do like ribeye or something. I'll do like chicken or turkey, and I eat that along with my eggs, and then you usually have like 1 cup of milk, and then I have an apple. And then around 2 or 3, like right now, I would normally have, let's say, some turkey, like sandwich meat with some cheese and another cup of milk. That's about 25 grams of protein right there. Very low calorie. And then for dinner, 5 or 6 p.m., I have like a regular dinner time. Let's say like a steak with, I will even eat some like macaroni salad with it if that's available, or I'll have a little side of greens. Last night I had some asparagus with it. If there's a potato, a baked potato, I'll have some of that. Nothing too crazy. I usually won't have milk with that meal because I don't need it. It's already such a big amount of food that I'll have like my night snack, which will be around 8 or 9 p.m. I'll then have a bowl of yogurt with some granola, like vanilla granola flakes on it. And that'll be like another 20, 25 grams of protein right there. So overall, the whole day is probably like 130 to 150 grams of protein. Probably around 2,500 calories if I had to guess, something like that. And if I eat like this every day, I will have 100% perfect digestion. Perfect all the way on the way out. Perfect. Weeks. I can go weeks eating like that, and it's perfect. So I know what works for me, for sure. What about hard poops? You need more fiber. You need more fiber, homie. People who say that you don't need fiber, that might be true if you're eating 100% carnivore with no dairy. But if you're eating as soon as you introduce pasteurized anything, pasteurized dairy, pasteurized yogurt, you probably are going to want some fiber in your diet. I'm just saying. I've tried it without it, and I've had some experiences. Disastrous experiences. You need some fiber sometimes. So even lately, I've been having some salad with my dinner, with my steak dinners. So I'll eat my steak, and then I'll eat the salad afterwards. You could eat it before if you wanted to, but I like to feast on that steak when I'm nice and hungry, and then I just kind of close it up with the salad. Like a basic Caesar salad, nothing crazy. Sid Meister says he came into it boozing. He's going to go out boozing. Word. Same. Tony asks about parasites, dysbiosis, any experience or opinions on the matter. I think those things are very much overblown. Very much overblown. I think you can have a gut dysbiosis, but again, if you fix what you're putting in, the dysbiosis will automatically heal itself. Like you don't need to do anything to fix that. Whatever you're eating is probably causing the dysbiosis. So if you fix what you're eating, it's going to fix the dysbiosis. It's pretty simple. And if you really needed to go even more extreme, you should implement some fasting. Like even 2 meals a day would be fasting, in my opinion. Eating in like a 4-hour window, 6-hour window. Like I truly believe that 95% of the people, or 95% of the issues people have will just be fixed by consuming freaking 2 meals a day, mostly carnivore, a little bit of fiber, a little bit of pasteurized dairy. They're just going to wipe everything out. And that's what I came to over trying millions and millions of different options. So Dark says hard poop equals too much salt on any diet. I disagree with that. I don't think the salt has much to do with it. I think it has way more to do with the fiber. I think if you eat too much fiber, you're going to get soft poop, just like the vegans have. Because trust me, I you know, the hard poop issue is mostly to do with dairy, and mostly to do with no fiber. Allostasis, LMAO, why is Bart selling blue-green algae? Yeah, it's cyanobacteria, but it's always been called blue-green algae. I don't know. You have to take that up with him. I have no idea. That's something that he has been taking for 10 plus years. He said it cured his vision. Indirectly. He couldn't say that legally, but he said that did help him. So that's what I asked him. I said, the blue-green algae thing, is that what the vegans are taking? And he said it's not the exact same thing. So I don't know. I don't know enough about it. I can't really comment on it. Tristan says that he drinks booze every day. Feels pretty good. I never get smashed, but some days I must take a break. I agree. You do have to take a break sometimes, man. Yeah. With drinking, if you drink every day, especially enough to get like pretty buzz, like that's no good, man. You'll do whatever you want. I'm not judging here. I'm just saying, for me, when I do that too often, I feel quite dehydrated. And then you have to kind of catch up on water, and then you pee too much, and then you're low on electrolytes, and you cause all these issues. That being said, I get drunk every once in a while. No big deal. And I enjoy it. And I don't care what anybody thinks about it. Angry Vegan's asking me, what if you ate coconut yogurt instead of dairy? Is it because dairy in particular irritates your gut or something? No, I don't think dairy irritates your gut. I think it actually heals your gut. I think that pasteurized dairy will cause you some constipation. Remember what I said. Constipation is a matter of over absorption, meaning less irritation. So if something's able to stay in your colon, that means it's not irritating your gut. It's not irritating your colon. So just by definition right there, it's not it's kind of staying in there too long. If the time lapse is too much, or sorry, if the time lapse is such that it's not moving fast enough, it will just over absorb. It will come out hard, and there will be no irritation, less irritation. Because if it was irritating your gut, you would be like running to the bathroom to get it out of you. Obviously, that the extreme end of the extreme other end would be diarrhea. Jed says, do you still take beta-alanine HCl, and did you take it when you were on the carnivore diet? I have no idea what that even is. I've never taken any supplements. I'm very anti-supplement. Very anti-supplement. I don't even take creatine, protein powders, nothing. I refuse. I'm not taking any of that shit. I took cyanocobalamin, vitamin B12 as a vegan. That was about it. Every once in a while, because I thought you needed it. But I was never like hardcore about it. I took it enough for it to not kill me, though. I know that. So Dark says, well, yeah, it can be too little fiber, so the colon lets it linger too long in your ass and sucks up the water content. That's what the colon does. So to be accurate, salt equals drier poo, magnesium equals softer. Yeah, that sounds about accurate, but if you're eating enough fiber, it doesn't matter how much salt you have, it's going to move through the system. And even if you eat a lot of salt and no fiber, as long as you're not eating pasteurized dairy, you should probably still have smooth, non-constipatory bowel movements. You should be fine. But then if you start taking magnesium to counterbalance the salt, I mean, it's kind of like what me and Bart were talking about earlier, where you start eating, you start introducing processed sugars, so then now you need to eat more fiber to counterbalance the thing. So you're taking two things that are not necessarily good for you to fix the issue. Two wrongs don't make a right, necessarily. Now, do as I say, not as I do, because I'm eating a lot more sugar now. And I'm eating a lot more fiber too, to counterbalance those things, because I recognize it. And the reason I'm doing that is to gain weight, you know? It's extremely difficult to gain weight, body weight, even muscle. I don't care what anybody says. On 1 to 2 meals a day, pure animal foods is very, very difficult. And someone could say, yeah, well, Drew, that's unhealthy for you to want that goal. Maybe your body, maybe your frame shouldn't be larger than it is right now. Whatever. I don't care. I'm going to do it anyways. And I don't think it's unhealthy. I think if you do what I'm doing for like a few months at a time, and then you go ahead and you counterbalance it by doing some fasting, and maybe then you go on 1 to 2 meals a day for a brief period of time and kind of lower the inflammation levels, bring yourself down to a neutral point. That's probably the sweet spot right there. But I think you can sort of abuse it for certain periods of time without causing yourself too much long-term damage. Tristan says he drinks a gallon of raw milk a week. That's great. I wish I could drink a gallon of raw milk a week. I drink more like a gallon every 5 days, actually. I've been drinking a little less lately, though. Sid Meister says, do any of the issues that arose from being vegan still linger? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I don't have any issues that stuck with me from being vegan. The only thing that I had as a vegan was it was destroying my teeth, which I went to the dentist about 6 months ago, and I didn't have any cavities. So lucky me. So Dark says you have to take magnesium. It's not in the soil food. Okay. For a while, I was actually drinking some salt water, like putting salt in my water, sea salt, on the recommendations from the Snake Diet guy. And I did feel like it provided you with a decent boost of energy. But, you know, I'm not so much to be trying to supplement all this stuff, although I don't really consider magnesium a supplement because it's basically just an electrolyte that you need. That's a fact. So I could see myself experimenting with that. That would be like the one thing I would maybe experiment with, maybe. But I don't. At the same time, I don't feel like I need it. You know, I don't really feel like I need it. Luke says the bacterial cultures in raw milk will help you digest lactose, as well as having a proper gut microbiome. Lactose intolerance isn't necessarily a permanent sentence. I agree with that. I agree that lactose intolerance is something that people overstate, and I feel like if the rest of their immune system or body's out of whack, they probably can't handle milk. But if they find themselves in a setting where they're eating, 2 meals a day and they're eating mostly carnivore, I bet you they can go back to experimenting with that milk and they'd be a lot better off and they wouldn't have any issues. That's a theory though. Someone's going to be in here and be like, oh, I tried that on carnivore. I was full carnivore and I had a glass of milk and I just puked all over the place. Well, okay, maybe I'm wrong. But I would hypothesize, I would theorize that that's the case. Oh, Jed says the digestive enzymes. Oh, sorry about that. I totally forgot about those. So my experience with those digestive enzymes that I took them for 1 month, I think. And it basically, it felt like I could eat almost anything without having any ill digestive effects. Like it did actually help. But what I will say is that as soon as I was done with them, everything went right back to normal. So if you want to live your life on those enzymes and whatever, but I don't know if there's any long-term effects of it, I would be careful with that. So long story short, I didn't rebuy them. I didn't take them again. So Dark, are you asking me my height, weight? I'm 5'10", about 163 right now. I've gained about 15 pounds or so since doing YouTube about a year ago. The last time you guys saw me was probably about 148, 150 pounds. I was really struggling to get above that. Tony says magnesium is plenty in meat and fruit and veg. No need to supplement. Yeah, see, I feel like there's not really something I'm missing. I feel pretty good. And yeah, the training goals right now is just basically keep gaining size. I'm working out all from home. I work out every other day. I have a little circuit that I do. Push-ups, pull-ups, squats, calf raises, and I work the front of the calves too. You guys should check that out just because I have little skinny ass calves. So I'm trying to get my calves to get bigger. I'm trying to really focus on my legs. I do lunges, body weight rows, hip thrusts, military press. I do lateral raises, rear raises, hammer curls. That's pretty much it, I think. Oh, flies with my rings, my Olympic rings. And yeah, so I'm working on that stuff right now. Every other day, 2 sets each till light failure on each set. And then I just make sure to eat 4 or 5 times a day. And I make sure to cut my fast right in the morning by eating honey and butter in my coffee, which instantly takes me out of any type of fast, which I was finding it very, very difficult to gain weight fasting. Evan Stevens asking about caffeine. I drink caffeine. I try and limit it to 1 coffee a day. And then some days, I don't know, late afternoon, I'm just feeling a little bit like I want some, some kind of boost. And maybe I'll have a Coca-Cola Classic or I'll have another coffee. Very rare that I have 2 coffees in a day, though. Very, very rare. And I stopped drinking Monsters so much too, guys. You guys used to see me with the white can Monsters. I stopped doing that. I don't really do that so much anymore. I still think they're freaking delicious and I love them. They're so addicting, but I don't do it very much. I've really started to value sleep a lot more these days. I feel like caffeine anytime past noon is probably not a good idea for anybody. Everybody talks about insomnia and all this bullshit. Yeah, well, everybody's a freaking coffee addict these days. So stop drinking caffeine after noon, and guess what? You're probably going to sleep like a baby. And I would sleep as much as possible. There's no such thing as too much sleep. There's enzyme pills for people who have trouble digesting beans. Yeah, but see, then you get to the point where you're taking pills just to eat a certain meal. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Just don't eat that meal. There's plenty of healthy stuff that I don't need to take a pill with that will be fine. And by the way, I'll still eat the meal and I'll just deal with the digestion. I'm not a baby about it. Like I'm not the type of person to go to somebody's house and they cook something and they're like, oh, this is what it is. I'm just going to eat it. I want to be a regular person. I want to be able to eat a wide variety of food. I want to be able to eat with people in a new place and not worry about all that stuff. You know what I mean? I just do things right 90-95% of the time outside of that. And then I set myself up for success when I want to go off the menu a little bit. Luke says he's 160 pounds currently, made some good gains on the ring since quarantine started. Only work legs by running and doing calf jumps. Nice. Add in some squats, bodyweight squats, add in some bodyweight lunges. What I'll do is I'll get next to the counter and I'll put my hands on the counter and then I'll just put one leg back and I just keep working one leg like a piston, just up and down, and then I just burn them out on the end of my workouts. I still have a little bit of I have a set of adjustable weights though. So those go up to like 30 pounds or something. So I'm still able to do like some basic stuff like curls, military press. The lateral raises would be very difficult to do without them. You know what I mean? The side raises and the rear raises. So I'm really grateful to have those. But then I use the rings for all the heavy lifting. And for the squats, I just kind of rest the dumbbells here and then I just squat with them till failure. Evan says that he's on and off coffee too. It's too addictive. You can't use it in moderation. Yeah, man, I'm in the same boat, man. I'm in the same boat. Trust me. But here's the thing. So I went on an experiment a couple months ago where I stopped drinking coffee for 2 full months, or 2 or 3 full weeks. And once I got through the initial phase of the headaches for the first 3 days, I was fine. And then I was like, you know what? I don't really notice any benefit from not being on the caffeine. So what I did was I just started drinking coffee again because it sounded, I was like, whatever. I started drinking again, and yeah, as long as I keep it to 1 a day. But like you, I have issues keeping it monitored, not drinking it a lot, because it's very easy for me to get on a plan where I'm just drinking a coffee in the morning, then I have lunch, and then I go right into drinking a Monster energy drink for the afternoon, and I love doing that. It's too enjoyable. Nick says, Drew, you moan about protein powders, but will drink Coke or Monster. That stuff is all chemicals. You can get some very clean protein powders. Yeah, but some of those Monsters are sugar-free. So at least I'm not getting a big insulin spike out of nowhere with that. Like if I'm going to get an insulin spike, I want it to be with protein and I want to actually grow from it. I don't just want like pure chemical poison sugar in my body. You know, that's like that's like pure gluttony in my opinion. And yes, I'll have a red can of Coca-Cola, but I usually drink it with my workout. And it's not like I'm doing this stuff every day. Again, going back to the protein powders, is people implement that as something that they do multiple times a day, every single day as part of their diet. I don't have an issue with people, oh, I'm going to be late. I'm going to skip this meal. And then they have a protein powder, protein shake once a week, twice a week, because they're busy and they're, you know, whatever. But if you're implementing that 2 times a day as your main, you know, source of protein, I think that's ridiculous. Just like the vegans do it. The vegans do that because there's no vegan on the planet that has any muscle mass without protein powder. Yeah, what's up? Really organic. I mean, love is the only. I don't want to get banned by YouTube. Wink, wink. Commodore says, to gain muscle fast, I did full body workouts with drop sets about 2 days out of 3. Very important to take a day or break to break. Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. Full body workouts every other day. Keep it consistent. And as long as you're eating, you will gain. But the eating is as important, if not more important, than the damn workouts. Luke says, Bulgarian dips, Bulgarian push-ups. Those gave me massive progress. You end up training the biceps and direct. Yep, exactly. Bart has issue with you, really organic? Well, you could say hi to him. He's probably in the chat still. What's up, Eco Steve? Tanks, I'm still going, man. I'm still going. I work from 7 to 3, go home, have a cold, small cup of coffee. Used to drink coffee before work. Yep. That's hardcore. So you at 3 p.m. you're drinking your first cup of coffee of the day? That's where people get in trouble, in my opinion. See, I would just rather drink it in the morning, go do your stuff where you're going to be walking around at work or whatever, you know, you're active. Because at least you're getting like the cortisol response from the coffee. It's dumping sugar into your bloodstream for energy, and you're actually utilizing that energy for movement and focus, rather than just sitting there in your computer chair and just like dumping it right back into your, I don't even know where that sugar goes, to be honest with you. I'm not metabolically knowledgeable enough. Sorry, guys. Hopefully we'll eventually get some people on here that are knowledgeable like that, and we could talk about that stuff. Nick says that the Monsters and the Coca-Colas have chemicals in there worse than sugar and sweeteners. They could spike insulin. Need to watch those drinks. Yeah. I got you. Again, I don't know if I want to label myself as an everything in moderation kind of guy, because I don't actually believe that. I believe in everything in small amounts. How about that? Moderation to me is like too much. Like too much consumption. People think moderation, they're like, oh, a little here, a little there, and then it ends up being actually a lot. I'm talking about like, if it's some day where I'm going on a long drive with a couple friends and we all stop at the gas station before this 2 hours of driving and everybody wants to get a Monster energy drink and it's like once a month. Yeah. All right. To me, that's not moderation. That's a very small amount. That's what I'm saying is okay. Not a big deal. I don't want to be that weirdo that like I don't drink soda. I don't drink Monster. I don't drink alcohol. You're lame. You're just lame at that point. But if you're doing that stuff all the time, you are going to feel the negative effects of it. Go try it if you don't believe me. I used to drink Monsters every day. Your sleep will suffer. You will be overly aggressive for no reason, probably to people around you, and they'll notice it. Tony says carbs for sport performance. Carbs are just a superior fuel for that. Like paper on the fire. DR is right. Keto and performance, not health, don't go well together. my opinion and my experience. Let me think for a second. A video is about to pop up. Thank you, Vitalius Banelis. Appreciate those 20 pounds. Those are the big bucks.
Drew Morg is a clever guy. I'd say probably one of the cleverest among the anti-vegan crew. Drew Morg's angle is psychological games. And because he's smart, he clearly also knows the truth. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Thank you, Vitalius, and thank you, Vegan Footsoldier, for letting the crowd know. Psychological games. That's what I play here, guys. All right, so get back to this question here. DR is right. Keto and performance don't go well together. Okay. From a basic level. Okay. Most people who have longevity in any sport that have high performance eat 5 to 6 meals a day, high protein diets, high carbohydrate diets, and they eat all the supplements in the world. Yeah, I would say that they're not on a trajectory of long-term health. And I don't think that the highest performing athletes are keto or carnivore. I just don't. Now, there's going to be some outliers, like Sean Baker, who's 50 years old, 52 years old, whatever he is, massive guy, was an athlete his whole life before going carnivore and was strong before going carnivore, has been doing it for 2 or 3 years. He has the capacity, which not many people have, to eat 4 to 5 pounds of meat per day. Most people can't do that. So just him being able to consume that meat alone is unique to him. Not many people can do that. So, I'm not saying that his approach is the healthier approach, although I guess some measurements would say that it is, especially according to him and according to his blood parameters. So, yeah, I would say that most athletes are probably not on a trajectory for health. And I would say that keto is probably the healthier way to live your life if you're just a regular person. Like if you're just a regular person, no working out, no aspirations of athletics, all you do is, you walk here and there to be healthy or whatever. I would say that if you're on keto or if you're eating a low carb diet, you're probably better off right there. Do I fuck with psychedelics? Nah. Nope. I've taken a few things in my lifetime and not really for me. Love is the only. Most of the biohackers and health experts say that coffee is healthy and very good for you. So you know what? I disagree with that. I drink it every day, but I disagree with that. I just enjoy it. I don't think it's healthy for you. I think you're better off not drinking coffee. Straight up. Nick says, I must be a lame. I am like that. I won't touch any of the stuff. It always makes me feel awful whenever I had it in the past. Even if it was, say, once every 3 months, coffee does the same. Fair enough. If it makes you feel that bad, then don't have it. Even with any amount of peer pressure. I agree with that. That's fine. But for me, I don't feel that horrible having it every once in a while. I can drink every once in a while and feel fine. I can have a pizza and feel okay. But if I start eating that stuff constantly, pizza one night, spaghetti the next night, I don't know, French fries the next night, it's going to add up. It's going to take its toll. Sean is strong, but he's somehow out of breath all the time. Keto is fine for performance, but only some sports, like Bart explained, and endurance. What? Okay, I can't read that comment. It didn't process in my brain correctly. I think what you're saying is keto is fine for endurance sports. Yes, I agree with that because endurance sports are slow carb burning, so you don't need that explosive power. So I would imagine that it's very difficult to be a high performance explosive athlete without carbohydrates. And that's why I brought up the point with him about being able to store so much carbohydrate in our skeletal muscles. It seems to me that our body is actually indeed designed to carry a larger amount of carbohydrates than would be delivered by just burning fat. And that's what a lot of the carnivore proponents say, oh, it's demand driven. We're going to get, we're going to get all the glycogen we need through our fat. Well, I'd like to see some people doing it. And of course, fair enough. Bart says that there's professional athletes doing it. They're just not talking about it. But at some point, one of them's got to come forward, right? And talk about this. My experience has shown me that it doesn't really work. And granted, I didn't do the 6 magical months to convert or whatever, but I mean, I don't know. It doesn't seem worth it to me. And again, then you go to a point where, you put 6 months into this thing, you're never going to eat carbs again, because now if you have, a candy bar or even rice, it's going to take you 6 more months to recover from that or something. I don't want to get into that situation. I just don't. Yeah, Evan says that he's in the habit of eating carbs throughout the day because work is physically demanding, but it's easy to overeat them. Yes, I agree. Once you start kind of getting into the sugar burning, carb burning zone where you're eating multiple meals a day like that, you do have to actually manage your caloric intake a little more than somebody who's just eating 1 or 2 meals a day. That's eating like mostly animal foods, 1 or 2 meals a day. Because those meals you can eat as much as you want, so you're just completely stuffed full, and you're not going to gain any weight, and you're going to have pretty decent energy. But you're probably not going to be able to gain muscle mass, and depending on how physical your job is, you may just actually need carbs, like especially if you need to be explosive for whatever reason. $1 million question. What do you think is the cause of dark eye circles? No idea. I think when I get any type of... Let me see here. Let me see if I can angle this. See, this light's out over here. This light's good. Like for me, I have these things. I think these are from allergies. I have these like ridges here. I've had them for years and years. I have no idea what causes those, if that's what you're talking about for me. But those dark circles people get under their eyes, I have no idea. They should go on like a fast or something. Dallas says, Drew, you're my favorite interviewer. Hey, I've tried to get Garland Farms on here, actually. I don't know. He's hard to get a hold of. He's actually out there working, unlike people like me. But thank you. Yeah, if you have a guest on your show, why do people have these guests and interview them and then just like talk over them the whole time? I want to ask questions so that I get more information out of them. That's my job, Please interview Shar, Vegan Deterioration. I've had her on the channel before. Maybe we'll get her on again soon. I don't think people realize that I'm even back doing this again, so maybe I'll get some more takers. I've got a few interesting guests. I talked about this before I had Bart on. This guy, Josh Raynergold, he said he'll come on. He eats raw meat. I saw him eat a whole raw chicken. And another person, he's a vegan bodybuilder, Plant-Based Fits. He's actually very big and strong, so I'm interested in seeing where he's coming from. Okay, guys, we've been off for an extra 45 minutes here after Bart. I didn't intend to go this long, but I appreciate you all for sticking with me. It's been a long one today. Got to let the voice, got to let your boy Drew get back up to the regular live streaming, because it's tough on the voice. I can already feel it. It's just going out. I'm going to the driving range now. Got to hit some balls. Fresh grips today. Fresh grips. Brand new. Need to go try these out. Paul Check. Yeah, Paul Check would be a good guess. So anyways, guys, yes, I'm gonna shut it down. Once again, thank you for all the super chats. Everybody who threw those out there. S. Marcus, of course. I think he went to sleep. Vitalius. Really appreciate it, guys. Luke, Kaleidoscope. Everybody who threw out the super chats today. Big thank yous, okay? We'll be back soon. I'm trying to schedule another one for Saturday, like I said. Maybe get that Josh Raynergold raw meat eating guy. And we'll see who else we can get on here. Maybe some special guests you guys aren't anticipating. Maybe some big names too. That'd be good. So we'll peace out and see you guys soon. Goodbye.